Tennessee. An underground research institute. Inside a narrow employee dormitory. A handsome young man in his 20s is using a computer, quickly searching through various materials. At the same time, his hands are swiftly calculating complex biological formulas on a notebook. On his chest, there is a silver badge. His name is written on it, Shu Luo. And his work unit and position, Super Soldier Serum Team 71, Researcher 7108. Not bad. Shu Luo specializes in researching the Super Soldier Serum. The kind of powerful serum that transforms ordinary people into Captain America. However, Shu Luo does not work for the military or the government, but for Hydra. Assisting Hydra in researching the Super Soldier Serum. To be precise, the predecessor of Shu Luo's current body was specialized in researching the Super Soldier Serum. And now, the soul occupying this body is actually a time traveler. He just arrived in this body a few hours ago. When he arrived, the predecessor was already dead. As for why the predecessor died, it's simple. Firstly, the Super Serum Team the predecessor was in spent a lot of time and money but failed to successfully develop the Super Soldier Serum. Secondly, the current timeline is shortly after Avengers, Age of Ultron. After Hydra was exposed in Captain America, the Winter Soldier, it suffered heavy losses, both in terms of funding and manpower. So Hydra decided to cut off some ineffective projects, reclaim all resources and research materials, and kill the researchers to prevent them from leaking the corresponding research results they had obtained. So a few hours ago, the person in charge of this base, along with security personnel, strangled the predecessor to death. And then Shu Luo from Earth took over, definitely. If Hydra discovers that Shu Luo has been resurrected, he will soon face a new death. The current Shu Luo is just an ordinary person, without any super abilities. If Hydra discovers that he is still alive, he will have almost no room for resistance and can only choose death. But there is always a way out. Shu Luo just arrived in this world and received a gift from his mother in his previous life on Earth. You have received a gift from your mother in your previous life on Earth, gaining the ultimate scientific research ability and unlimited evolutionary potential. Ultimate scientific research ability. You possess unparalleled research ability, allowing you to study anything you want. You can understand all knowledge and master them. Unlimited evolutionary potential. Your body has the potential for unlimited evolution, capable of accommodating all evolutionary powers and absorbing them to the maximum extent. However, it is currently a blank slate, and you need to fill it with scientific technology. The scientific research ability allows Shu Luo to analyze all extraordinary powers and strengthen himself. The unlimited evolutionary potential allows Shu Luo to perfectly integrate the powers he analyzes into his own body. The current Shu Luo is no longer the previous Shu Luo. He is now someone with the ultimate scientific research ability. He now possesses super learning, super scientific research, logical thinking, super memory, and a series of other super scientific research abilities. In order to avoid dying at the hands of Hydra, Shu Luo is currently using this ability, rapidly digesting the research materials on the Super Soldier Serum and the current research results. And he is also rapidly deducing the formula for successfully manufacturing the Super Soldier Serum. Because only by researching and developing the Super Soldier Serum and injecting it, he can have the ability to save himself. At this moment, Shu Luo's brain is like a supercomputer, working frantically and rapidly deducing a large number of complex bioengineering formulas. Cellular energy conversion equations, biomutation equations, biomutation safety thresholds, coordination and overall control of billions of neurons, and cell collapse, and so on. Countless knowledge is flowing through his brain. During the process of his brain working frantically, the energy in his body is also rapidly depleting. Soon, his stomach growls. He quickly breaks open a few chocolate bars and eats them quickly, then continues to deduce frantically, without daring to stop for a moment. Because Shu Luo understands that he is now racing against time, racing against the death god. Because soon, there will be a specialized team to clean up the bodies, entering all the staff rooms and disposing of all the bodies. If they find out that he is still alive at this time, they will quickly eliminate him. As for escaping, he is just an ordinary person now, and the research institute is heavily guarded, with armed soldiers firmly controlling the exits, making it impossible for him to escape. So, before being discovered, he must research and develop the Super Soldier Serum and inject it. With each piece of paper filled with various equations, Shu Luo is also rapidly breaking through the difficulties of each Super Soldier Serum. In the office of the head of the research institute, the blinds of the window are pulled down, tightly closed. The head is inside, making a phone call. He grovels to the phone, Lord Baron Strucker, all the researchers of the Super Soldier Serum Group 71 have been dealt with. Baron Strucker's voice sounds through the phone. Very well, back up all the data, then erase all the data in the Research Institute, and finally shut down the Institute. Alright, Lord Baron Strucker. Baron Strucker continues, don't let anything go wrong with this matter. Your Research Institute has already failed, if you can't even handle wiping your own ass. The other person's voice suddenly turns cold, then I will have to eliminate you. Sweat beads form on the head's forehead, and he quickly wipes them away. Rest assured, Lord Baron, I will definitely handle this matter properly. There will be no mistakes. Soon, the call is hung up. The head dials a subordinate's phone, changing his demeanor, and says coldly, send the cleanup team to dispose of the researchers' bodies. Also, check if there are any escapees. If there are, eliminate them. Yes. Inside the dormitory. After several hours of intense deduction, Shu Luo's face has turned slightly pale, and he even feels a bit dizzy. This is the result of excessive mental exertion. Finally, just as Shu Luo feels a slight headache, he deduces the final formula of the Super Soldier Serum. He picks up the latest piece of paper, filled with data. Seeing the paper in front of him, Shu Luo reveals a smile. He licks his dry lips. Finally, it's done. Today, the complete formula of the Super Soldier Serum sees the light of day again. At this moment, Shu Luo's heart was filled with excitement and a sense of accomplishment. He had actually deduced the Super Soldier Serum. The military, Hydra, and other organizations had spent decades trying to deduce the Super Soldier Serum, but he had managed to do it in just a few hours. Although it was largely due to him standing on the shoulders of the Hydra research data, which saved him a lot of time. But taking this crucial step was the most important. After all these years, only he had achieved it. And it was all thanks to the terrifying research ability bestowed upon him by the Earth. With this ability, Shu Luo believed that as long as he didn't die, he would definitely be able to climb to the highest point and take a look. After a brief moment of joy and excitement, Shu Luo's face became slightly serious. He murmured to himself, next, the most important thing is to successfully formulate the serum and inject it into my body. Shu Luo clenched his fist. By taking this step, I will have a future. Having developed the serum, the next crucial step was to put it into action. Only by injecting the serum into his own body could he survive and escape from here. He now needed to stealthily infiltrate the laboratory and secretly prepare the Super Soldier Serum. Fortunately, all the researchers were dead, and there were no people in the laboratory. As long as he entered the laboratory, he would not be easily discovered. But he had to sneak into the laboratory first. Click. A lighter was ignited. A stack of deduction materials in front of him began to burn fiercely and was thrown into an iron bucket beside Shu Luo. All this information was already engraved in his mind, so there was no need to leave it in the world. The blazing orange flames illuminated Shu Luo's slightly pale face and determined eyes. Shu Luo ate another chocolate bar to replenish his energy. Then he quickly tapped on the keyboard, using some computer knowledge from his previous life to hack into the surveillance system of the Research Institute. He tampered with the footage of certain surveillance cameras. As long as the surveillance doesn't see me and I'm a bit careful not to be discovered by security personnel, I can sneak into the laboratory. Next, he had to go to the laboratory. To avoid being detected by the cameras, he needed to disable all the cameras along his route to the laboratory. Click. Shu Luo finished tapping on the last keyboard key, and a gleam of excitement flashed in his eyes. Done. He had successfully dealt with all the cameras. He quickly got up, quietly opened the door, and saw that there was no one outside. He pushed the door open and walked outside. Following the memories in his mind, he quickly walked towards the laboratory. At the same time, on the other side of the laboratory, a group of personnel with handguns were pushing an incinerator towards the dormitory. They first arrived at the dormitory of Researcher 7101 and checked the bodies inside. After confirming their deaths, they threw them into the incinerator. Boom. The incinerator erupted in flames, quickly turning the bodies into ashes and completely disposing of the researchers. They then moved on to dormitory 7102, repeating the same actions. Shu Luo encountered no obstacles along the way and everything went smoothly. Mainly because the researchers had been eliminated, and the security personnel were preparing to retreat. The laboratory appeared before Shu Luo's eyes. Luck is on my side. I haven't encountered any problems, Shu Luo said, looking at the equipment inside the laboratory, feeling a sense of excitement and anticipation. Next, I will formulate the Super Soldier Serum. As long as I do that, I can escape from this research institute. Shu Luo focused his gaze. This research institute didn't have super soldiers like the Winter Soldier, nor did it have individuals with super abilities. There were only some heavily armed soldiers. Once he possessed the physique of a super soldier, it would be enough for him to break out. He pushed open the door of the laboratory. After entering, he locked the door behind him. Seeing the door locked, Shu Luo breathed a sigh of relief. The entire laboratory is made of reinforced bulletproof glass, and once it's locked from the inside, it can't be opened from the outside. Even if the people from Hydra want to rush in, it will still take them quite some time. This time should be enough for me to formulate the serum. He quickly left the spot and headed towards the experimental table, his hands moving swiftly, using a large number of instruments. Drop by drop, the biological potion was continuously adjusted, sometimes turning blue, sometimes green, sometimes transparent, like magic. Occasionally, with a bang, a green smoke rose from the test tube. The team responsible for cleaning up the bodies continued to move forward. Soon, they arrived at dormitory 7105. Click. The door was pushed open. There was no body inside. Damn it. What's going on? Where is researcher 05? One person touched the bed and tapped the ash-covered iron bucket. The bed is still warm, and the iron bucket is warm too. It seems like someone was just here. Could it be that this researcher didn't die completely? They came back to life? Immediately. One person tapped on the computer keyboard and looked at the browsing history inside. There was a recent login to the account of 05, and records of accessing the super soldier serum data. His expression slightly froze. It seems that there is a high probability that 05 didn't die. He immediately reported this to the person in charge. Upon hearing this report, the person in charge felt a chill down their spine. They didn't expect that there would actually be someone who slipped through the net. They quickly sounded the alarm. Holding a communicator, they shouted to all the security personnel, 7105 is still alive. All security personnel, aside from the guards, take action. Dig 3 feet deep to find 7105. Once found, permission to shoot directly. Immediately. The entire research institute lit up with urgent red alarm lights. Teams of people set off, beginning a thorough search of the entire research institute. Inside the office, the person in charge pulled up Shu Luo's reading records. Seeing that the other party was looking up relevant information about the super soldier serum, and had been browsing for several hours, they furrowed their brows slightly. What is this guy doing? Why, in the last few hours, has he been looking up information about the super soldier serum? They pondered. It seems that this guy knows that with his ordinary body, it's impossible for him to escape, so in the end, he wants to gamble on the super soldier serum. Begging for a miracle, trying to create a successful super soldier serum. They sneered. Simply a pipe dream. A group of people for over a decade, and there hasn't been much progress. Can he, alone, create a miracle in a few hours? Is that possible? Their gaze turned cold. I must quickly deal with this guy. If Baron finds out that I didn't clean up properly and someone survived, I'm definitely in trouble. Inside the laboratory, Shu Luo was rapidly completing his actions. Suddenly, an urgent red alarm light sounded. It seems they've discovered my disappearance and started looking for me. I must speed up. Hurry and formulate the things. Shu Luo felt the pressure increase, and his movements became faster. Soon, a series of hurried footsteps sounded outside. Immediately after, a fully armed security team appeared. They immediately saw the person inside the laboratory. They quickly shouted into their pagers. We found 7105. This guy is inside the laboratory. He's working on something inside. The door is locked from the inside, we can't open it from the outside. The cold voice of the person in charge came from the pager. Shoot the glass with bullets. The group of people quickly picked up their firearms. Bang bang bang. A storm of bullets rained down on the glass. Listening to the gunshots in his ears, Shu Luo's nerves immediately tightened to the extreme, sweat dripping from his forehead. Just a little more. Just a little more time. He clenched his teeth and almost unleashed all his potential, rapidly concocting something in his hands. The office of the person in charge. Through the security personnel's glasses, he saw Shu Luo's actions inside. The laboratory's cameras had been hacked by Shu Luo. So, the surveillance couldn't see what was happening inside, it still appeared empty. The person in charge frowned and said, "What is this guy doing? Is he preparing a serum? If he takes a failed serum, it will be worse than death. Is this guy desperate now?" Their team had prepared many serums, but they all failed. After the experimental subjects took them, they would suffer for a period of time and eventually die. The person in charge sneered, "Such an arrogant guy." Just at that moment, a phone call came in. "I didn't expect there to be a problem over there." Baron Strucker's cold voice sounded. The person in charge was sincerely fearful and quickly said, "Lord Baron, I am already handling it, you can rest assured. We will soon deal with this guy." In a distant location, Baron Strucker looked at the computer screen, which displayed all the surveillance videos from the Super Serum 71 Research Institute, as well as the scenes captured by the security personnel's perspective. He saw that inside the laboratory, the surviving researchers were frantically concocting something. There was no change in his expression, and he coldly said, "Handle it properly." He also saw Shu Luo's reading records, but he didn't pay much attention to them. After all, this team had made no progress for over a decade, and this young researcher's performance was mediocre after joining. He didn't seem like a genius capable of creating a super serum. Immediately after, he turned off the surveillance of the Super Serum 71 Research Institute. Although it had bulletproof glass, if bullets kept shooting at it, it would eventually break. Under the continuous barrage of bullets, not long after, creak, a tiny crack appeared on the glass. Seeing this, the team members all showed joy on their faces. It finally cracked. We can soon blast through this disgusting glass wall. Shit, our institute's glass is really damn good in quality. Looking at Shu Luo sweating inside, the security personnel sneered. This idiot is about to receive a baptism of bullets. I wonder if this guy will die first under our guns or from the poison he concocted himself. Inside, Shu Luo stopped his rapid movements. He took a deep breath and shook the test tube in his hand. The colorless liquid inside the test tube began to change rapidly. Soon, a pure light blue liquid flowed inside, extremely pure and beautiful like the sky. Looking at the blue liquid in front of him, Shu Luo's eyes widened with joy. It's done. The super soldier serum. He quickly picked up the syringe next to him and poured the super soldier serum into it. Then he inserted the needle into his own vein. He pressed the trigger. Swoosh. The serum was directly injected into Shu Luo's vein. The people outside saw this scene and all grinned. This guy is really asking for death. It would be better for him to die in our hands. The taste of failed serum, the feeling of being better off dead, is much more painful than a bullet. This kid really can't see the bigger picture. Inside the office, the person in charge saw this scene and immediately let out a sigh of relief. For him, whether it was shooting or injecting the failed serum, there was no difference. As long as the person died, it was okay. Now, the other party has injected the failed serum, and there is no hope of rescue. Definitely doomed. The person in charge smirked and started dialing the phone. Thank goodness it's over. At the moment when the super soldier serum was injected into his body, Shu Luo felt an extreme sense of pain, as if countless hammers were pounding his body, almost grinding his bones to dust. Ah! With a bang, Shu Luo fell to the ground, emitting waves of screams. He tightly clenched his hands. The intense pain almost made Shu Luo faint. But he understood that he absolutely couldn't faint, he had to persevere. Otherwise, this sleep would be eternal. Without the will to resist and coordinate his muscles, his body would eventually collapse. So, willpower is the last rope holding onto the body. Waves of intense pain surged towards Shu Luo like a tide. Sweat poured out of his whole body, his body trembled incessantly, his eyes filled with bloodshot veins, and the screams were endless. Hold on. Hold on, he shouted in his heart. Shu Luo didn't want to die here. After all, his future was boundless. His ability destined him to go to the top of the mountain and take a look. He just crossed over and died. And he died from injecting the real super soldier serum, unable to bear the pain. This was too pathetic. He absolutely refused. Since he crossed over, he must live like the protagonist. What is this little pain? Shu Luo tightly clenched his hands, his nails embedded in them, blood seeping out. But he couldn't feel this little pain at all because the intense pain in his body was too strong. I can do it. Shu Luo's eyes were bloodshot, his face twisted. Others were terrified when they saw him. The security personnel outside felt a chill down their spines when they saw this scene. They had seen this scene before. Those who injected the failed serum would endure this kind of pain. I think injecting this thing is seeking death. It would be better to let me shoot him. King stupid. This kid is completely finished now. In the office, the phone connected. The person in charge flattered, Lord Baron, I have already resolved the small oversight on my end. Baron Strucker. Is he dead already? The person in charge laughed. He just adjusted the serum himself and injected it. He is now writhing in pain on the ground. As you know, injecting the wrong serum, no one can survive. It simply destroys the cells in the body, ultimately leading to an excruciating death. This guy. Suddenly, the voice of the person in charge stopped abruptly. Immediately, there was a sound of gasping in shock. Baron Strucker asked urgently, what happened? Under the bombardment of a large number of bullets, the bulletproof glass, which had been strengthened, was covered with cracks. Finally, even the strengthened bulletproof glass couldn't hold up anymore. With a bang, it instantly shattered. A group of armed personnel saw this and a smile appeared on their faces. Damn it, we finally broke this thing. Charge. Let's give this guy a few shots and let him die a little more comfortably. Hee hee, I'll go for a headshot, no one should try to steal it from me. The group quickly rushed in. Meanwhile, inside the laboratory, Shu Luo, after enduring waves of pain, completed his metamorphosis. After the intense pain, a warm current surged through his body. At the same time, bursts of explosive power continued to emerge. Lying on the ground, Shu Luo was panting heavily. He clenched his fist, and an astonishing burst of power kept surging out. He smiled with satisfaction. Finally, it's done. At the same time, as he heard the sound of glass shattering, a cold light flickered in his eyes. Next, it will be my territory. He quickly rolled and rushed into the experimental platform, holding several sharp surgical knives in his hand. These knives were originally used to dissect people who died from taking the wrong serum. Now, they had a better use: to kill living people. Seeing Shu Luo suddenly stop screaming and swiftly roll into the experimental platform, the security personnel widened their eyes. Their eyes were filled with astonishment. F*K, he's not dead. How is that possible? This speed. Did he succeed? A security personnel swallowed his saliva, a hint of fear flashing in his eyes. After injecting the serum, enduring the pain, and not dying, but still being able to move normally, this was a scene they had never seen before. In the office, the person in charge saw this scene and took a sharp breath, his words abruptly stopping. The Baron heard the person's sharp breath and asked what was going on, but the person in charge couldn't listen at all now. His attention was completely focused on that narrow laboratory, on the man hiding inside. He shouted incredulously, How is this possible? He clearly injected the serum. How is it possible that he didn't die and can continue to move normally? Upon hearing the person in charge's words, the Baron's breath hitched. Injected the serum and still not dead? Still able to move normally? This performance. Thinking of the only possible result, the Baron took a cold breath. The Baron quickly asked, Did he succeed? Did he succeed? Did he succeed? Asking 3 times in a row whether he succeeded or not showed the urgency in the Baron's heart. Inside the laboratory, due to their fear, the security personnel quickly started shooting at the front of the experimental platform. But the platform was made of metal and couldn't be penetrated at all. They quickly moved towards the back of the platform, wanting to defeat Shu Luo, who was hiding there. Shu Luo listened to the direction of the gunshots. His brain quickly worked. And then he moved, popping his head out from the other side of the platform. Several surgical knives flew out. Pist. One surgical knife directly hit a person's forehead. A surgical knife was directly inserted into someone's chest. A surgical knife grazed past someone, leaving only a small scar. Even with a strong physique, Shu Luo's hit rate could not reach 100%. Even headshots are a matter of luck. There's no way around it. After all, Shu Luo had never fought before. Being able to do this is already very good. Several screams rang out. 2 people fell down. 1 person died, the other groaned in pain. Shu Luo pursued his advantage. He quickly dodged attacks, crossed several experimental tables at once, and rushed into the crowd. He still had 1 surgical knife in his hand, with a cold and sharp blade. During the fight, Shu Luo showed no signs of panic, and was even terrifyingly calm. Even with continuous gunshots and imminent danger, he could still calmly think about how to fight, how to position himself, how to throw the knife, and how to kill. He didn't know if it was the effect of the super serum enhancing his willpower, or the effect of his research abilities. As Shu Luo charged into the crowd, the situation instantly reversed. He was like a ferocious wolf among sheep. The movements of these security personnel seemed slower in his eyes. Before the opponents could aim their guns at him, his surgical knife turned into a cold and bone-chilling arc, slashing across their throats. Pissed. Pissed. Warm and viscous blood splattered onto Shu Luo's stern face. Quickly, Shu Luo dealt with the security personnel in front of him as easily as cutting vegetables. The noisy gunshots disappeared, leaving only silence. Blood gushed out and the bodies on the ground twitched slightly. On the ground, only Shu Luo stood tall. His face and body were splattered with blood. Combined with his stern expression and cold eyes, he looked like a blood-soaked demon. Resolved. Next, I'll go to the control room, get the data I want, and then break out. If possible, Shu Luo wouldn't mind staying and slaughtering everyone in the research institute. Kill all the Hydra soldiers and leaders. However, he didn't have the time for that. Because Hydra could send reinforcements at any moment. He was currently just a strengthened super soldier, not the Hulk or Superman. If the enemy sent a large number of fully armed soldiers, or sent more super soldiers, he wouldn't be able to handle it. So, he had to escape from this research institute before Hydra reinforcements arrived. As for his grudge with Hydra, he could settle it when he became stronger. But before breaking out, he had to go to the control room. Because there were the data he needed. After all, Hydra's research institute still had a lot of intelligence and information. He needed some people's information. For Shu Luo, the super soldier serum was far from enough. It was just a temporary solution to his current predicament. He needed even greater power to deal with Hydra and future potential crises. He picked up a gun, a few magazines, and walked towards the outside. Fortunately, this was America, where almost everyone had experience with guns. His previous self was the same, otherwise he might not even know how to aim or reload. After doing all this, he poured flammable chemicals in the laboratory. After doing all this, he lit a lighter and threw it in. Boom. A raging fire ignited. Heat waves swept through the area, reflecting off Shu Luo's blood-stained cold face. Shu Luo turned around and rushed out with a gun in his hand. The person in charge looked at the scene in front of him, dumbfounded and trembling. He never expected that this researcher, codenamed O5, had actually developed the super soldier serum. This serum had stumped countless scientists from the military, SHIELD, and Hydra, and even the genius super soldiers. Yet it was broken through by a seemingly ordinary young man in his 20s. His voice trembled. How? How is this possible? The Baron's chilling voice rang out. What happened? In the distance, as the Baron spoke, he reopened the surveillance of the Super Serum 71 group. However, the surveillance in the laboratory was already broken. But from the hallway camera, they could see the laboratory engulfed in flames. A blood-soaked young man with black hair was sprinting in the corridor, carrying a rifle and a cold surgical knife. His eyes were completely normal, without a trace of madness, filled with reason. Seeing this scene, the Baron's breathing became slightly rapid, and a hint of excitement flashed in his eyes. His voice trembled. Is that black-haired man? The one who just injected the serum. At this moment, the voice of the leader of the 71 group sounded again. Yes. Yes, my Lord Baron. Baron Strucker suddenly stood up from his seat and shouted, Capture him. Capture this man alive. Do not kill him. He was extremely excited. Capture him, and I will not blame you for your previous mistakes. You will be greatly rewarded. Baron Strucker never expected that the 71 group had actually produced a real super soldier serum. This was truly an unexpected joy. Immediately, he picked up another phone and said, Immediately send an elite team to support the Super Serum 71 Group Research Institute. Also, send a team of super soldiers. Capture a man who has just transformed into a super soldier. He is an Asian man with black hair and black eyes, named Shu Luo. The super soldiers that Hydra currently possessed were all flawed, prone to losing control. They were usually frozen and required regular testing and brainwashing. And the success rate was extremely low. Mass production was simply impossible. If they could obtain a real super serum, then they could replicate an army of super soldiers. An army composed of Captain America. Then Hydra could rule the world. Thinking of this, Baron Strucker became even more excited. Office of the 71 Group Research Institute. Yes, my Lord Baron. The person in charge heard this and felt a bit excited. He immediately gave orders to his subordinates again. Capture him. Try not to use guns. Capture him alive. He emphasized once again, remember, if anyone kills him, I will personally torture them to death. The security personnel of the research institute rushed towards the direction of the laboratory one after another. Soon, a battle broke out. In the narrow and short corridors, firearms were not effective. Shu Luo dashed into the crowd, immediately entering a frenzy of killing. Using people as shields, the surgical knife swiftly flew through the air. Screams and the sound of blood splattering filled the air as security personnel constantly fell. Behind them, the flames burned fiercely, as if chasing after Shu Luo's footsteps. Soon, Shu Luo arrived at a control room. He rushed in. Kill all the security personnel inside. Then rapidly tap on the keyboard. A large amount of data constantly pops up and is copied into a high-capacity portable hard drive. One of them is called James Logan. He is Wolverine. Wolverine's terrifying self-healing ability is his next target. As long as he doesn't die, anything is possible. Only by not dying can he do more things. So for Shu Luo, he must first obtain means of survival. Since Wolverine's self-healing ability can be given to Deadpool, it can also be given to him. In addition to Wolverine, a lot of information about other super ability individuals has been copied into the hard drive. And these people are all for Shu Luo's greater plan. These few hours have passed. Shu Luo already knows the path he must take. That is to use the abilities of these people to bring the god of mankind, Superman, back to life in the Marvel Universe. He wants to evolve into a normal Superman, evolve into a Silver Surfer, and ultimately become an all-knowing and all-powerful supreme being. During this time of slaughtering people, a clear path of evolution has already emerged in his mind. For example, how to obtain a biological field, what abilities to replace, how to have flight ability, how to have super strength, heat vision, and become stronger by absorbing sunlight, and so on. He has a rough plan in his mind. Definitely, he also understands that this path is long and arduous, but he has confidence in achieving it. As Shu Luo rapidly taps on the keyboard, soon, a massive amount of data is copied by him. He immediately puts the hard drive into his pocket. I have the stuff, it's time to go. He looks outside, a smile on his face, but under the rendering of blood, it appears somewhat terrifying. Whoosh! Shu Luo bursts out and rushes out of the control room. Facing the terrifying Shu Luo, the security forces of the research institute are unable to stop him. He constantly approaches the main gate. In another Hydra base in Tennessee, military trucks filled with people rush out and head towards Research Group 71. To avoid being too conspicuous and attracting unnecessary attention, they split into more than 10 groups and take different paths towards Research Group 71. Inside these military trucks are fully armed, live ammunition experienced veterans, filled with a sense of killing. In addition, an invisible fighter jet shoots out from the Hydra base and quickly approaches Research Group 71. Inside this invisible fighter jet, 4 super soldiers sit, their eyes cold and lifeless, like robots. However, they exude a chilling feeling, as if several fierce tigers and lions are sitting there. Research Group 71. The person in charge watches Shu Luo killing everyone in the surveillance footage and clenches his fist. I can't let you escape. You are the key to my promotion and wealth. He immediately turns around, presses a button, and mutters, "You don't think that Hydra's research institute only has ordinary soldiers, do you?" Immediately after, several sets of exoskeleton battle armor with a cold metallic color appeared. This is the exoskeleton armor developed by Hydra using Chitauri technology. We thought we wouldn't need it anymore and it would be taken back by higher-ups, but unexpectedly, we still have to use it to make achievements today. After the battle in Avengers Alliance 1, a large number of Chitauri warships crashed in New York. These warships and robots contain Chitauri interstellar technology, far surpassing Earth's. So they were collected by the military and S.H.I.E.L.D. for research. Because S.H.I.E.L.D. was infiltrated by Hydra, a lot of Chitauri interstellar technology was taken by Hydra for research. The exoskeleton battle armor in front of them is one of the results. He called in a security team. Soon, 4 people wearing exoskeleton battle armor appeared. The leader spoke, "Take down Shu Luo for me." "Yes." Immediately, the 4 people burst out with super fast speed and rushed out of the office towards where Shu Luo was. In a hall, Shu Luo kept moving between various cover objects and continuously shooting with his gun. In the midst of constant shooting, Shu Luo's shooting skills were also constantly improving. This is thanks to the powerful learning ability given to him by the ultimate scientific research ability. When approaching the enemy, he would switch to surgical knife mode for close combat. His close combat ability is also constantly improving. Definitely, these improvements do not come without a cost. Constantly fighting against fully armed security personnel, even though he has the body of a super soldier, he still gets injured. He has different degrees of wounds on his body. The pain also constantly stimulates Shu Luo. But on the surface, Shu Luo seems to have not changed much, except for gritting his teeth. His combat effectiveness has not weakened at all. It's as if these pains cannot affect Shu Luo. In reality, Shu Luo can also feel the pain. It's just that compared to the excruciating pain he felt when injecting the serum, these wounds on his body are nothing. In addition, in a life and death battle, the surge of adrenaline also weakens some of the pain. Pissed, Shu Luo's surgical knife mercilessly slashed open someone's throat. "We're about to go out." Looking at the hall through the external door, Shu Luo muttered. Just at this moment, whoosh, several figures shot out at high speed and rushed towards Shu Luo. A sense of crisis rose in Shu Luo's heart. He quickly raised his gun and started shooting. Clang clang clang. The opponents moved quickly. They used their steel arms to block the bullets. Then they swooped down and attacked Shu Luo. Shu Luo quickly used his gun as a shield to defend himself. Bang bang bang. A surge of tremendous force. The steel rifle was quickly hammered into scrap. Attacked from all directions by several enemies, Shu Luo struggled to cope and could only passively fight back. Under the opponent's offensive, he kept retreating. Shu Luo frowned as he looked at the soldier in exoskeleton armor in front of him. If he were to fight them one-on-one, he would easily surpass them and be able to deal with them completely. But when several people were together, especially experienced soldiers with high coordination, he couldn't handle them at all. If it continued like this, he would lose. Several exoskeleton soldiers looked at Shu Luo retreating and smiled. "Surrender, and you'll get hit a little less. Don't worry, we won't kill you. We just want your freedom and your mind. We won't take your life. Don't resist stubbornly. Although we won't kill you, we can still beat you up. If you want to suffer less, surrender quickly." Inside the office, the person in charge saw this scene and clenched their fist excitedly. "This is it. I didn't expect to have a pleasant surprise right before the work here is finished." The person in charge laughed heartily. In the hall, Shu Luo looked at the opponent's exoskeleton battlesuit, his mind spinning rapidly, recalling the knowledge he already had. He was thinking about how to crack the opponent's exoskeleton battlesuit. As long as the opponent didn't have the exoskeleton armor, he wouldn't have to exert much effort to fight. Soon, a gleam flashed in his eyes. The exoskeleton battlesuit is a mechanical item. Mechanical items all have a flaw, which is their fear of electromagnetic pulses. His gaze fell on a small laboratory nearby. Due to limited conditions and time, he couldn't make a large-scale electromagnetic pulse weapon to disable these mechanical exoskeletons with a single shot. But making a small, handicapped-level, disruptive electromagnetic pulse device was still possible. The opponent's exoskeleton had no protective measures, and he could even see the circuits and power pistons inside clearly. There were no copper plates or steel plates as shielding covers, so there was no protection against electromagnetic pulses. Therefore, a small electromagnetic pulse device could still have an impact and temporarily immobilize it. When experts clash, life and death can be decided in a second. There weren't many things in the small laboratory, but making a small electromagnetic pulse disruptor was enough. He could even use a mosquito swatter to make a small electromagnetic pulse device, although the effect would be poor, at most shielding MP3 players and cell phones. Fortunately, the opponents were not a few super soldiers, otherwise, he would truly be kneeling here. Having made up his mind, he lifted the long steel table next to him and swung it at the enemy, then smashed it out. The enemies quickly crossed their arms to defend. Bang! They all took a step or two back. Taking advantage of this opening, Shu Luo ran towards the small laboratory. Seeing Shu Luo not running towards the exit but towards the inside, the enemies sneered. He had no way out. They quickly caught up, ready to take down Shu Luo in one fell swoop. Whoosh! A fighter jet streaked across the sky, tearing through the clouds at high speed. Heading towards Research Institute 71. Baron Strucker's voice sounded in the earpieces of each super soldier. "After you arrive at Research Institute 71, kill everyone except Shu Luo. Leave no survivors." Yes. The voices of the super soldiers were uniform. Regarding the secret of the birth of the super soldier serum, Baron Strucker does not intend to let more people know. Currently, only he needs to know this secret. Because he doesn't trust anyone else, in his view, once a second person knows, it means the whole world knows. The small laboratory is not far away. Shu Luo sprinted and rushed into the small laboratory. After entering, he immediately locked the door. The exoskeleton team outside also arrived. Boom! Boom. Powerful iron fists struck the protective glass. The glass walls trembled slightly. The veins on the foreheads of the exoskeleton team members bulged slightly. Don't waste your effort. This glass wall can't stop us at all. We only need a dozen seconds to break this wall and take you down. You better come out quickly, otherwise, if we get in, you'll suffer. Shu Luo rushed into the laboratory, searching for materials, hiding in blind spots of the surveillance cameras, and assembling. He whispered calmly, "A dozen seconds is enough. An electromagnetic pulse is a sudden, high-intensity pulse of broadband electromagnetic radiation. Electromagnetic forming technology is a high-speed forming technology that uses magnetic field forces to shape metal workpieces. Because the load acts on the workpiece in the form of pulses during the forming process, it is also called magnetic pulse forming technology. The power supply charges the high-voltage capacitor and stores electrical energy in it. Then the switch is closed, and a short pulse of high-amplitude electric current is formed in the coil, creating a rapidly changing pulse magnetic field around the coil. This pulse magnetic field induces an electric current in the metal workpiece, and the direction of the induced electric current is opposite to the direction of the electric current in the coil. Under the interaction of these two opposing magnetic fields, a strong magnetic field force is generated between the coil and the workpiece. Generally, the coil is fixed, and the workpiece undergoes shapeshifting under the action of this magnetic field force. In short, it creates a powerful magnetic field force that causes mechanical components to shapeshift, thereby interfering with and even destroying enemy electronic devices. Shu Luo quickly disassembled things, took out circuit boards, and then took out copper wires. His hands moved rapidly, welding the circuit boards, binding layers of steel wire, with an incredibly focused expression, completely oblivious to the booming sounds outside. The exoskeleton team outside saw Shu Luo's actions. They furrowed their brows. What is this guy doing? I don't know, is he making an electric shock device? Does he want to shock us? It's fine, as long as we don't touch this guy's weapon. Besides, the four of us against him, can he shock all four of us at the same time? He shocks one, and the other three of us will immediately take him down. No problem. They were just simple soldiers who couldn't understand Shu Luo's actions at all. Soon, Shu Luo had a high-voltage capacitor in his hand, charged it, and stored a large amount of electrical energy in it. Next, all he needed was the switch. In this way, a small electromagnetic pulse generator took shape. Done. Boom. The glass wall shattered, and several sneers sounded. You're finished, kid. You've delayed us for so long. Get ready to suffer. Whoosh. Flashes of lightning-like figures rushed towards Shu Luo, almost instantly appearing in front of him, raising their fists and striking down. Shu Luo's eyes turned cold, and he raised the electromagnetic pulse generator in his hand, a very crude electronic device that looked like a pile of electronic junk. The enemies saw it and sneered. Do you think you can touch us? Do you think you can take down all four of us at the same time? Prepare to get beaten, fool. Shu Luo pressed the switch. Buzz. An invisible electromagnetic pulse burst out. The four mechanical exoskeletons creaked, losing power and pausing for a moment. What's going on? What happened? Several members of the team widened their eyes. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. Shu Luo waved the surgical knife in his hand, the metallic arc cold and sharp. Seeing this scene, several people exclaimed in shock. Pissed. Pissed. Their throats were all cut. Because their bodies were fixed by heavy exoskeletons, they didn't fall down. It was as if Jesus was hanging on the cross, suspended in the exoskeleton. His body twitched for a moment, and then his eyes lost their light, dead. Shu Luo breathed lightly, sweat mixed with blood dripping continuously. The surgical knife in his hand fluttered like a butterfly in the air, agile and swift, directly destroying the circuitry of the exoskeleton. After completing these actions, he didn't stop. He dropped the unfinished electromagnetic pulse generator in his hand, picked up the surgical knife, and ran towards the door. Because he knew Hydra's reinforcements must be on their way, ready to arrive at any moment. He had to leave quickly. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to leave. He picked up a gun and fired at the attackers. Without the resistance of the exoskeleton, the others were no match for him. He quickly rushed out of the hall's door and arrived outside. The research institute behind him was located in the belly of a small mountain. After coming out, there were mountains all around. His gaze fell on a car next to him. He hurriedly ran towards it. No keys. But he pulled out 2 ignition wires and tied them together. Boom. The engine roared to life. The whole car started. After completing these actions, he fired at the tires of the nearby cars, bursting them. After completing these actions, he stepped on the gas pedal, and the car shot out, rushing into the narrow path among the mountains. The wind howled outside the window, and the fresh, slightly cold air rushed into his lungs, washing away the strong smell of blood in his nostrils. At this moment, Shu Luo felt like he was truly reborn. He looked ahead, his eyes seemingly shining. Definitely. He understood that things were far from over. Hydra would definitely stick to him like an annoying band-aid, tracking him. So he couldn't be careless now. Next, he needed to find Wolverine and study Wolverine's self-healing factor by replicating it. But before finding Wolverine, he still needed to purchase some things to reduce the risk from Wolverine. After all, Wolverine's claws were not to be trifled with. On the way to Wolverine, there happened to be a vibranium dealer named Clow. This guy recently sold vibranium to Ultron in Avengers: Age of Ultron, allowing him to create a vibranium body, which later became Vision. At the same time, because he said the wrong thing, Ultron directly cut off one of his arms. He happened to be able to take some vibranium from this guy to defend himself and fight. He stepped on the accelerator, and with a loud roar, the car sped up. Leaving everyone's sight in a cloud of dust, the person in charge ran out. Looking at the disappearing car, he went crazy. No, my accomplishment. He wanted to send someone to chase after the car, but all the cars had been tampered with. He kicked the car door in anger. Damn it. Damn it. Suddenly, his eyes narrowed. This guy is driving our Hydra car. It's connected to our system. Track his route for me. The person next to him quickly said, okay. The person next to him took out a notebook and quickly typed away. Soon, a route appeared. A red dot was speeding down the road. Seeing this, the person in charge smiled. Very good, very good. At this moment, a fighter jet broke through the clouds, diving down and finally landing at the entrance of the research institute. The person in charge saw this and his eyes lit up. Help has arrived. Several fully armed super soldiers came down from the plane. Seeing these super soldiers, everyone in the research institute felt a chill down their spines. After all, they knew a thing or two about the ferocity of these super soldiers. The person in charge quickly walked up and handed over the notebook. Everyone, this guy is running on the road, and we have been tracking his car. You can catch up to him now, he can't escape. After all, how can a car outrun a fighter jet? The other party expressionlessly took the notebook, looked at it, and nodded. Then, they raised their guns and aimed at the person in charge and the security personnel behind him. Seeing this scene, the person in charge and the others widened their eyes in disbelief. Before they could react, bang bang bang. A single Shu Luo inflicted heavy damage on the security personnel of the research institute. 4 individuals of the same level, facing these security personnel, it was a one-sided massacre. The continuous screams rang out again. The research institute once again turned into a slaughterhouse, blood flowing like a river. While slaughtering, they reported the situation to the Baron. The voice of the Baron sounded in the earpiece of the super soldiers. Completely eliminate the personnel of Research Group 71, then intercept Shu Luo and bring him back. Yes. In the distance, the Baron was reviewing the system information of Research Group 71. Reviewing the things Shu Luo copied from the Research Institute not long ago. Looking at the information of each super ability user. The Baron frowned slightly and murmured, what is this guy planning? Why does he need so much information on super ability users? In addition, there was also some information on non-super ability users. There were quite a few familiar faces among them. For example, the vibranium dealer Clow. After all, Ultron was able to find Clow based on the information obtained from him. To be precise, it was from the file office of the base where he was researching Wanda and her brother. He looked at Shu Luo's direction of travel, and then looked at Clow's location. The person closest to Shu Luo's current route was Clow. He pondered, is this guy trying to find Clow and get some vibranium? He immediately picked up the pager and called a truck team. Baron, what are your orders? The Baron said, change your route, go to Clow's location. Yes. 4 super soldiers quickly bloodied the entire Research Group 71. From this moment on, the only people who know that Shu Luo has developed the serum for super soldiers are Baron Strucker and Shu Luo himself. The raging flames ignited by Shu Luo engulfed the entire Research Institute, reflecting on the cold faces of the 4 Hydra soldiers in front of him. They turned around and boarded the fighter jet. Whoosh! They shot out, heading towards the red dot on the map that was running. Next to a motel. Shu Luo stopped and pulled apart the two ignition wires, causing the car to immediately stall. The reason he stopped was because he needed to tend to his own wounds. Even though he had a physique beyond that of an ordinary person, if the wounds were not treated, they would still worsen and lead to serious consequences. He opened the nearby medical kit, which he had just bought on the road. He tore open his shirt, revealing his streamlined and explosive muscles. With a dose of the super soldier serum, his physical form was already extremely perfect. However, this powerful body was covered in scars, bloody and destroying its aesthetic appeal. There were even bullet wounds. Bullets embedded in his flesh, the pain stimulating Shu Luo's nerves, causing his eye to twitch involuntarily. He took out a pair of tweezers from the side and inserted them deep into the wound to extract the bullets. The intense pain made Shu Luo take a sharp breath. Hiss, pissed. With a clank, he threw a bullet head onto the iron shell. He constantly extracted the bullets from his body. A series of crisp sounds rang out. In the end, on the iron shell, there were 5 bloody bullet heads. Shu Luo's forehead was covered in small beads of sweat. He immediately cleaned his wounds, pouring alcohol onto those wounds. Hiss. The intense pain made Shu Luo furrow his brow. After disinfecting, he wrapped layer after layer of white bandages around his body. Finally, he bandaged up the larger wounds. Finally done. Shu Luo let out a sigh of relief and wiped the sweat off his face. Immediately, he looked in a certain direction, a glint of determination in his eyes. Baron looked at his computer screen. The fighter jet was rapidly approaching the red dot, and the distance between the two sides was already very close. There was no way. The speed of the car compared to the fighter jet was like a snail compared to a rabbit. Baron smiled and said, "Soon, the fighter jet will catch up to Shu Luo's car. The serum for super soldiers will be in my hands. 4 super soldiers, 1 against 4, and still carrying injuries. How can you win this round?" Suddenly, he raised an eyebrow. Why did the car stop? Could it be that this guy fainted due to his injuries? Or is he planning to abandon the car? He quickly communicated with the Hydra soldiers, "Catch up quickly." Yes. Above the sky. Whoosh, the fighter jet burst out. In just a few breaths, the people on the fighter jet saw the car parked on the road in the distance. A Hydra soldier spoke into his pager, "Baron, we have spotted the car. No sign of anyone around, it seems the target is still inside." An excited voice came from the pager, "Go up quickly." Somewhere in the Hydra base. The Baron also saw the car in the distance through the camera on the fighter jet, and his heart surged with excitement. He clenched his fist and exclaimed, "The super soldier serum is within reach. Now, my ambition can finally be realized." The fighter jet swiftly flew through the sky and arrived in the air in front of the car. Several figures leapt down from the fighter jet and quickly rushed towards the car. A Hydra soldier reached the front of the car and looked at the person inside, furrowing his brow. "Who are you?" Inside the car. A white man was inside, counting the money in his hands. Upon hearing the sound outside the window, he looked up and was startled by the fully armed soldiers. Bang. The Hydra soldier smashed the car window and pulled the man out, his voice cold. "Who are you?" The black-haired Asian man inside the car. The man stammered, This car is stolen by me. I stole it from that black-haired Asian man. I saw him go into the pharmacy to buy something, and the car was unlocked, and there was some money inside. So I drove the car away. Damn it." The Hydra soldier gritted his teeth. Bang. He directly smashed the man's head onto the steering wheel, breaking his nose, blood gushing out, a gruesome sight. The man screamed in pain. The Hydra soldier coldly asked, "Which pharmacy did you steal things from?" The man quickly replied, I stole from the West pharmacy behind us." The Hydra soldier let go of his hand and walked towards the descending fighter jet, while reporting the information to the Baron. Behind him, a companion took out a pistol and pulled the trigger amidst a plea for mercy. Bang. The bullet hit the man's head, and he fell onto the steering wheel. Then a lighter was thrown into the car. A group of Hydra soldiers boarded the plane. A loud explosion followed. The fire burned fiercely, licking the air with intense heat. "Baron, the driver is not Shu Luo. He is not in this car," came the report from the soldiers, who then briefed Baron Strucker on the situation. The Baron's joy turned into a grim expression. He immediately gave the order, "Hurry to the pharmacy and see." Without the car, he shouldn't have gone far. Yes. On the other side, in front of a bar. An outdated sedan parked at the entrance. Inside the car sat a handsome Asian man, Shu Luo. Shu Luo murmured, "At the moment, those guys should have caught up with the thief and headed towards the pharmacy. But I left a long time ago. Sorry, you guys will only find an empty space." Shu Luo knew that there must be a tracking system inside Hydra's car, so after getting on the road, he planned to abandon the car and switch to another one. On the road, he saw a suspicious person standing next to someone else's car. Observing the person's behavior, he guessed that the person was a car thief. So an idea of switching cars came to his mind. Coincidentally, there was a pharmacy nearby. So he left some money in the car and intentionally didn't lock it, attracting the attention of the car thief. Sure enough, the other party stole the car. In this way, the other party would have more time to work for him. As for himself, he bought a worn-out second-hand car. The previous owner didn't leave him anything, but there was still a little money left. However, after such extravagance, there wasn't much money left. Actually, Shu Luo could have just stolen the car, just like stealing Hydra's car, very easily. But he didn't do that. Because he hadn't reached the point where he had to harm others for his own benefit by stealing cars. He was a person with principles, although these principles might be flexible. Taking advantage of Hydra's mistake in identifying the target, he had already arrived at one of his destinations based on Hydra's information. Noka Bar. According to Hydra's information, here, he could find the vibranium dealer, Claw. Thinking of this, he pushed open the car door and walked towards the bar. On the other side, the Hydra soldier arrived at the pharmacy. But they didn't find anything. They only knew that Shu Luo left after buying a car. As for where he went, Hydra didn't know either. Because Shu Luo had been walking in the blind spots of the surveillance and this area was not a city, it was a remote wilderness with few surveillance cameras and many roads. As a result, Hydra lost the lead. Inside the Hydra base, the Baron heard the report from his subordinates and instantly became furious. F*K. Something that was supposed to be a sure thing ended up like this. My super soldier serum. After a moment of anger, the Baron's face turned cold. Shu Luo definitely calculated the car thief stealing the car. Leaving the door unlocked and the money, it was definitely intentional. He clenched his fist. Truly someone who developed the super soldier serum single-handedly. During his escape while injured, he was able to calmly consider the car's safety and even staged a clever escape. This guy indeed has something. He looked at the data on the computer screen and murmured, "So, dear Shu Luo, where will you go?" Noisy and dim, with dazzling lights and a mixture of strong alcohol and body odor in the air. This was Shu Luo's first impression upon entering the bar. The bar wasn't big, but it was almost full of people. And it seemed like everyone didn't look friendly, not like people engaged in legitimate business. Seeing this, Shu Luo understood that this might be a gray area, a place where all sorts of people gathered. As soon as he entered, the gazes of the people around him gathered on his unfamiliar face. Their eyes were all unfriendly, as if they had spotted a fat lamb waiting to be slaughtered. A burly man walked towards him. "Kid, you look pretty unfamiliar, and your face is quite tender." As he spoke, he slapped Shu Luo's face. Shu Luo grabbed the other person's hand and calmly looked at them, saying, "I really dislike it when people lay hands on me." The burly man tried to pull his hand back, but found that the handsome man in front of him had a grip as strong as an iron clamp. His hand couldn't move at all. What the hell? Why is it so tight? Shu Luo twisted his hand, causing the other person's hand to contort slightly. A scream escaped from the other person's mouth. Several men quickly stood up from their seats and walked towards Shu Luo with unfriendly expressions. It seemed that they were the burly man's companions. Shu Luo kneeled down and hit the burly man's abdomen, causing him to immediately fall down, curling up in pain. The others rushed forward, wanting to teach Shu Luo a lesson together. Shu Luo threw a punch, hitting the faces, stomachs, and waists of the people. In the blink of an eye, several people were lying on the ground, groaning in pain. Shu Luo was unscathed, not even a wrinkle on his clothes, except for some bloodstains on his hands. Complete domination. Seeing the powerful strength displayed by Shu Luo, the ill intentions in the eyes of the others dissipated significantly. They also withdrew their gazes, but occasionally glanced at the Asian man from the corner of their eyes. Wow, this newcomer is quite fierce. I didn't expect someone who looks like a delicate Hollywood star to have such strong abilities. Well, anyone who dares to come here alone must have some skills. This guy is not to be messed with. Inside the bar, everyone was whispering to each other. Shu Luo walked towards a table. The customers at that table were all nervous, their breathing paused, unconsciously swallowing their saliva. The glasses they were holding were frozen in midair, not daring to move at all. As Shu Luo approached, the pressure in their hearts reached its peak, their hearts pounding. But Shu Luo only took out a piece of paper and calmly wiped the blood off his fist. After finishing these actions, Shu Luo walked towards the bar counter. The customers at the table breathed a sigh of relief, either placing their beer down or taking a big gulp. Shu Luo sat in front of the bar counter and ordered a chilled beer. Soon, the bartender placed a large glass of chilled beer in front of him. Shu Luo looked at the bartender and said, "I want to see Ulysses Crow." According to Hydra's information, Crow also had a stake in this bar. So the bartender should have some connection with Crow, or at least be able to contact him. The bartender expressionlessly shook his head, "I don't know this person." Saying that, he wiped and tidied the bar with a towel. Shu Luo didn't drink the beer, he just placed his hands on the cold glass, feeling its temperature. He spoke, "I know Crow is involved in this bar and has a stake in it. I just want to find Crow and buy something." The bartender shook his head, "Mr. Crow has retired and no longer sells anything." Shu Luo understood that he had to present something that Crow would truly be interested in, otherwise he wouldn't see him. Unless he could come up with a box of money or something else that Crow would find interesting. He definitely didn't have a box of money, however, he did have something that Crow might be interested in. Shu Luo spoke, "I have a set of steel arms here that can perfectly replace the original hands and are even more powerful and convenient. I think Klaus should be interested. You just need to tell him that this steel arm contains Chitori technology." Not long ago, while selling vibranium to Ultron, Klaus offended him by saying the wrong thing and had one of his arms cut off by Ultron. So, Klaus at this moment will definitely be interested in a steel arm that can replace his original arm. Especially since this steel arm also contains Chitori technology that far surpasses Earth's level. The reason why Shu Luo has this technology is naturally obtained from Hydra. It can be put to good use here. Upon hearing Shu Luo's words, the bartender paused for a moment and said, "I'll go get some drinks from the back." After speaking, he turned and entered the kitchen. Shu Luo understood that the bartender must have contacted Klaus. Shu Luo did not drink the drink in front of him. Instead, he handed it to the person next to him and smiled, "This one's on me." The person happily took the drink and drank it quickly, saying, "Thank you, brother." Soon, the bartender came out. He looked at Shu Luo and said, "Mr. Klaus is willing to see you." Immediately, he wrote down an address and handed it to Shu Luo. "Go to this place to meet him." Shu Luo nodded. It was a house outside a small town near the mining site. With the address in hand, Shu Luo drove to the location. Soon, an abandoned mining site appeared before his eyes. Next to it was a house. Outside the house stood a group of armed people. When they saw Shu Luo's car, everyone's eyes became extremely alert. They aimed their guns at the car. Facing the barrels of the guns, Shu Luo remained calm. Because Klaus needed what he had, and it was difficult for ordinary people to hit him with a gun. He opened the door and got out of the car, saying, "I have what Klaus needs." The other party said, "No weapons allowed inside." Shu Luo nodded. Someone quickly came up and searched him. After confirming that Shu Luo had no weapons on him, they let him in. After entering the room, Shu Luo saw Klaus. Perhaps because of his broken arm, Klaus didn't look too good. Klaus squinted slightly and said, "You said you can make a powerful steel arm for me?" Shu Luo nodded. "Yes, I can make a powerful steel arm for you, and its technology comes from the Chitori." He remained calm. "You know the level of Chitori technology. After all, that battle in New York a few years ago was broadcasted worldwide." Klaus nodded. "I naturally know, otherwise I wouldn't have let you in. But how can you prove that you can make such an arm? Can't you deceive me?" Shu Luo threw a stack of documents in his hand and raised his chin. These documents were a partial technical description of the steel arm that Shu Luo printed before coming, and the key technologies were hidden. Klaus, also being a technician, picked up what Shu Luo handed over and started to look through it. Soon, his eyes lit up. He clearly recognized the authenticity of this document. The advanced steel arms in the document are all achievable. While Klaus was carefully reading the document, creak. The door opened. A little girl ran in, pale and sickly. She cried out weakly, "Daddy." Klaus frowned slightly when he saw this. "Why are you here? Didn't I tell you to stay at home?" The little girl looked aggrieved. I missed Daddy." Klaus tenderly embraced the little girl. All right, my precious. But this won't happen again. Daddy told you that you can't watch Daddy when he's working, it's dangerous. The little girl hugged Klaus. I understand. Klaus threw the document on the coffee table. So, what do you want in exchange? Shu Luo said, vibranium, enough to make a shield. Klaus smiled when he heard this. Enough for a shield? That won't be enough. A mechanical arm can be made anywhere, it's just a matter of skill level. Although your mechanical arm is indeed of a higher level. But it's far from being as valuable as a vibranium shield. Klaus put his legs on the coffee table and touched his daughter's hair, plus $20 million. Hearing Klaus's words, Shu Luo frowned slightly. $20 million. He definitely couldn't come up with that. He pondered in place, thinking about what he could exchange with the other party. The only things he had were some research materials from Hydra, information on some superhumans, and a formula for a super soldier serum. Definitely, he couldn't bring out the last item. Because once it was brought out, it would become a target for everyone. After all, too many people wanted to get their hands on it. At this moment, one of Klaus's subordinates said he needed to go to the bathroom. Shu Luo keenly noticed that the other person's expression and body language were subtly off. So, when the person left, he also said he needed to go to the bathroom. And then he followed to the bathroom. He could hear the sound of a phone call from inside. With his extraordinary hearing, Shu Luo heard the voice inside. He also took out his phone and started recording. Klaus's subordinate said, "Hello, Shu Luo has come to Klaus's side." The voice on the other end of the phone said, "Okay, try to delay Shu Luo as much as possible, I will report to the higher-ups immediately. A military force is already on its way to your location, and 4 winter soldiers have been dispatched, riding in fighter jets, they will be there soon. As long as you delay him, he won't be able to escape." Klaus's subordinate said, "All right, I will try to delay him as much as possible." Hearing the conversation inside, Shu Luo's eyes narrowed. Bang. He kicked open the door. The wooden door hit the person inside. A cry of pain rang out. He lifted the person up after opening the door. The mercenaries in the living room heard the sound and quickly rushed over with their guns, aiming at Shu Luo in the bathroom. "What are you doing? Let go of our people." Shu Luo, holding the informant, furrowed his brows and said, "What are you doing? Trading with me while betraying Hydra? If you don't want to trade, I won't force you." Shu Luo's face turned cold. Upon hearing this, the mercenaries were confused, some unable to understand Shu Luo's words. Shu Luo, holding the informant, walked towards the living room, ignoring the armed men. If anyone dared to shoot, the one who would die would definitely be the shooter. Claude protected his daughter and coldly looked at Shu Luo, saying, "What are you talking about? Betraying Hydra." Shu Luo played the recording from his phone. Claude stared at the informant, his voice icy. "Damn it, you're actually with Hydra? What exactly does Hydra want to do?" Observing Claude's expression, Shu Luo confirmed that he didn't seem to be lying. He immediately understood that the informant was most likely a spy planted by Hydra around Claude. Planting spies. That's very Hydra. Shu Luo looked at the informant in his hand and said coldly, "Tell me your purpose." The informant snorted, "I have nothing to say." Shu Luo chuckled lightly, "Believe me, my knowledge and proficiency in the human body far surpass your imagination. I know very well what kind of unbearable pain manipulating certain parts of the human body can cause. The upper orbital fissure of the human eye, the trigeminal nerve. The central protrusion of the trigeminal ganglion, entering the brain at the junction of the brainstem in the basal part of the pons, can transmit sensory fibers of temperature and pain that terminate in the trigeminal spinal tract. If I were to insert a needle into the upper half of the orbital fissure, it would cause unbearable and terrifying pain. Believe me, you wouldn't want to experience it." Saying this, Shu Luo somehow produced 2 extremely sharp steel needles, gleaming with a cold light. Listening to Shu Luo's explanation, the sight of these sharp needles alone was enough to make one tremble in fear. The steel needles descended towards the gap above the informant's eyeball. Seeing those terrifying needles, the informant quickly confessed his own information. The reason Hydra was monitoring Claude was to obtain the vibranium he had. However, Claude was always cautious and never shared the location of the vibranium with anyone, so Hydra's people had been lurking. Once they found a clue to the vibranium, they would take it and eliminate Claude. Upon hearing this, Claude's gaze turned exceptionally cold. Shu Luo couldn't help but say, "I didn't expect that both of us have caught Hydra's attention. I really have a connection with Hydra. Wherever I go, I can encounter them. Just at that moment, bang, 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 gunshots rang outside. A mercenary quickly ran to the window and pulled open a small curtain. He hurriedly said to Claude, "There's a well-trained team launching a fierce attack on our team. We can't hold on outside much longer. We need to go out and support." After saying that, the armed mercenaries in the room quickly rushed out and engaged in battle with Hydra's army. Claude held his daughter's head tightly and his face turned frosty. It's Hydra's people. Just as the mercenaries rushed out, cries of pain could be heard. "Damn it. The enemy's firepower is too strong. Damn it. Hold them back." A loud horn sounded outside the house. Shu Luo and Clow inside, "Surrender cleanly. You can't escape anymore, our army has surrounded you. Soon, our super soldiers will also arrive. If you surrender now, you can suffer a little less." Listening to the diminishing sound of gunfire on their side, Clow clenched his fist. He looked at his daughter in his arms, then at Shu Luo. "I see that you are skilled. Save my daughter, and I'll owe you 20 million. I'll give you vibranium. Help me make a steel arm. How about that?" Hearing Clow's words, Shu Luo nodded slightly. "Okay. We need to leave here quickly. If Hydra's winter soldiers come, I won't be able to escape either." Clow nodded. "After dealing with the people outside, I have a safe route to escape from here. Hydra's people won't find us." Shu Luo looked around. "Give me a more powerful weapon. I'll take care of the people outside." Clow was slightly surprised. "You want to take on Hydra's team alone? They are a battle-hardened modern elite force." Shu Luo raised his palm. "Just give me the stuff." The people on the other side didn't dare to harm him, which was his biggest advantage. As long as he avoided their capture methods, he would be fine. Clow quickly walked to a wall and pressed a hidden door. "You can pick any weapon here." The wall opened, revealing a plentiful supply of modern weapons inside. Pistols, rifles, grenades, even rocket launchers. Seeing Clow's weapons, Shu Luo's eyes widened. Wow. It was like a small armory, truly the Marvel world. Weapons were hidden everywhere, with so many of them. With a snap, Shu Luo snapped the informant's neck and threw him to the ground. Then he grabbed several grenades, picked up a rifle and a rocket launcher, and rushed towards the nearby window. Breaking through the front was slightly more dangerous. Breaking through from both sides was the safest way. Seeing Shu Luo holding a rifle and a rocket launcher, Clow's eyes also widened. Wow, can he really go out and fight like this? Shu Luo leapt out of the window, leaning against the outer wall, and aimed the rocket launcher at the Hydra team in front. Shu Luo's appearance instantly caught Hydra's attention. Shu Luo has appeared. Switch to stun guns, tranquilizer bullets, capture him alive. Be careful, he's holding a rocket launcher, spread out. Looking at Shu Luo, who remained calm, holding the rocket launcher with one hand, the Hydra agents exclaimed. Before they could finish speaking, Shu Luo pulled the trigger. Boom. The shell flew out horizontally, a loud explosion. Flesh and blood flew, the ground trembled slightly. In an instant, 1/3 of the enemies were gone. Their formation was also disrupted. Shu Luo quickly looked for cover while shooting at the enemy. Bang, bang, bang. Bullets flew, blood splattered. In addition, Shu Luo was extremely tense, trying to avoid being hit by the enemy's stun guns or tranquilizer guns. Once hit, he would be done for. Damn it, this guy is too strong. We have completely suppressed the enemy. Unless the Winter Soldier is deployed, he can't possibly be his match. Damn it. Why is a researcher so strong? Why does he have such strong combat awareness? Is this guy really just a nerd from the lab? Damn it. Shu Luo moved extremely quickly, like a ghost. In addition to bullets, he also threw grenades and smoke bombs. Explosions, gunshots, and screams filled the air. Soon enough, the urgent gunfire outside disappeared. Shu Luo appeared in the room again, with a few beads of sweat on his forehead, his breath slightly uneven. He didn't look like someone who had just experienced intense combat. Upon seeing Shu Luo, Clow took a breath and said, "My goodness, did you single-handedly take care of Hydra's army? Are you a superpowered individual or some kind of super soldier?" Shu Luo's strength far exceeded his imagination, surpassing that of an ordinary person. He effortlessly crushed a tactical squad of Hydra, a top-notch special forces team. He was practically a second Captain America. He looked at Shu Luo's slender body and couldn't help but be amazed. It was hard to imagine that such a slender body possessed such astonishing explosive power. Shu Luo tossed the hot gun aside. It was mainly because there weren't many people who came, just a regular Hydra squad. If there were more of them, I wouldn't have been able to handle it. He urged, let's go, let's leave here. Hydra's real soldiers will be here soon. He didn't mention anything about his own situation. Seeing that he didn't say anything, Clow didn't ask further. Clow nodded and said, let's go into the mine. With that, he held his daughter and quickly left the room, heading towards the nearby minefield. Shu Luo followed closely behind Clow, keeping a vigilant eye on his surroundings, especially the sky. According to what was said on the phone, 4 winter soldiers had been dispatched. Shu Luo just didn't know if those 4 winter soldiers were the ones eliminated by Zemo later on. Or if Bucky was among them. Soon enough, the mine came into Shu Luo's view, dark and deep. The 3 of them rushed in. Clow took out a flashlight from his pocket and illuminated the inside. At the same time, above the sky outside, a sharp tearing air sound could be heard. Shu Luo understood that the winter soldiers had arrived. A sense of urgency surged in Shu Luo's heart. He quickly said, hurry, Hydra's winter soldiers are coming. Clow quickly carried his daughter and ran towards the depths of the mine. The mine was like a maze with many paths. But Clow walked as if he was in his own backyard, familiar with the route. As he ran, he whispered, in the deep part of the mine, there is a secret passage. It was dug by a miner a long time ago, who wanted to steal ore. Behind it is a natural cave that leads to the forest behind the distant mountains. But that miner was executed by my grandfather because this mine was owned by my grandfather. And this secret passage is only known by our family and has become our means of escape. As he spoke, they had already passed several intersections and arrived at a deeper part of the mine. In front of a rough and uneven wall, Clow pressed on it. With a loud rumble, a stone door opened. Behind the stone door, there was a minecart. Get in. The 3 of them got on the minecart, and the stone door closed. The minecart started automatically, speeding through the dim, damp cave, with only the flashlight providing some light. In the dimness, Shu Luo's dark eyes became even deeper. In his heart, he murmured, finally, one day, I will uproot Hydra and wipe them out. Boom. A streamlined fighter jet landed vertically in the open space outside Clow's house. The 4 winter soldiers got off the plane, looking at the situation on the ground. They frowned slightly. A man with a metal arm said, all of our people are dead. This person kicked open the door, and it was Winter Soldier Bucky. The others also entered and searched around, but they didn't see any trace of Shu Luo and Clow. Seeing this, Winter Soldier Bucky quickly reported to his superior, Baron, Shu Luo and his team have completely wiped out our regular squad and have left Clow's residence. Upon hearing Bucky's words, the Baron felt a surge of anger. After finally finding Shu Luo's trace, they let the other party escape. F*K. The Baron's roar came from the pager. After a violent gasp, the Baron's voice sounded again. The undercover agent just reported to us, and our regular tactical squad has only recently arrived. They can't have gone far. Conduct a thorough search of the surrounding area, and you will definitely find them. Bucky walked out of the house and surveyed the surroundings, saying, Baron, there's a mine nearby. Perhaps they might be hiding there. The Baron said, immediately send people in to search, and the other regular tactical squads are also on their way. They will assist you in the search. Yes. In a cave in the belly of a distant mountain. Shu Luo and the others came out, pushing 2 motorcycles. As soon as they came out, there were tall trees all around. The treetops covered the sky, leaving only a few gaps for a little sunlight to shine through. So that the area below wouldn't be too dark. But it was still cool enough. After all, deep in the mountains, it was much cooler than in the city. Clow's little daughter couldn't help but hug herself. Seeing this, Shu Luo took off his coat and put it on Clow's daughter. Clow whispered, thank you. The little girl politely said, thank you, big brother. Shu Luo nodded slightly. He looked at Clow and asked, where should we go next? Clow replied, come with me, we're going to my safe house next. When the time comes, I will give you the vibranium. After saying that, he placed it behind the motorcycle and then stepped on it, saying, hold on tight, baby. Okay, daddy. Clow's daughter quickly hugged her father. Clow then used a rope to tie his daughter to himself. After doing all this, vroom, he revved the engine. The motorcycles soared out. Shu Luo also started his motorcycle. And flew out, following closely behind Clow's motorcycle. The land in the mountains was somewhat uneven. So the motorcycles of the two of them were speeding and leaping. Both of them had excellent skills. Or rather, Klau's driving skills were excellent, and Shu Luo had strong reaction and body control abilities. So the two of them drove smoothly in the dense forest and on the uneven ground. The wind whistled in Shu Luo's ears. The fresh and clear air filled his lungs, truly refreshing. He felt like his whole respiratory system had been cleansed. While speeding away, Shu Luo felt his adrenaline surging, especially when there were obstacles ahead and he had to avoid them at high speed. That thrilling feeling made Shu Luo thoroughly enjoy it. His facial expression seemed to relax a lot. Shu Luo murmured, "It seems that I am someone who enjoys excitement." They raced through the mountains and forests. The two of them traveled for almost a whole day. Finally, when night fell, they burst out of the mountains and arrived on a rural road. In the midst of the high speed, the wind was too loud, so they shouted to make each other hear their voices. Claude shouted, "We're almost there, just a little more to go." Shu Luo responded loudly, "Okay." The rumbling sound continued. The motorcycles raced on the road, after midnight. In another part of the mountains and forests, two motorcycles stopped. In front of the motorcycles, there was a cave. Claude said, "This is it. Inside here is a safe house I built." Looking at the cave, Shu Luo couldn't help but sigh, "You really are too secretive. Not only is it in the mountains and forests, but it's also built inside a cave. You can't tell from the outside, but there are rooms inside." Immediately, the two of them pushed the motorcycles inside. The cave was slightly damp and very dim. At the end was a wall, and it seemed like there was no way forward. Claude touched a protrusion. Suddenly, an electronic screen appeared. The electronic screen appeared and scanned Claude's pupils. Then, with a rumble, a door opened, revealing a hidden paradise inside. It was spacious inside, belonging to a simple European style. The two of them pushed the motorcycles inside. Claude's little daughter covered her bottom and fell onto the sofa, her face contorted in pain. "Daddy, my butt hurts so much from sitting on the motorcycle all day." Claude patted his daughter's head. "Daddy will massage it for you later. I'll go get something first." He waved to Shu Luo. "Let's go, I'll give you the thing." The two of them then entered a room. It was a tool shed, filled with various manufacturing equipment and tools. Claude picked up a small safe from the corner and took out a lump of silver metal from inside. Claude threw the thing to Shu Luo. "Brother, this is the vibranium for you. It's enough for you to make a shield." Shu Luo took the lump of metal and picked up a small hammer from the side, hammering it onto the metal. Seeing the kinetic energy being absorbed by the metal, Shu Luo's eyes lit up, a hint of joy flashed by. Vibranium in hand, almost all of the kinetic energy was absorbed. Shu Luo could confirm that this was a genuine piece of vibranium, a priceless and highly defensive top-grade metal. After 2 days of hard work, they finally got their hands on this thing. With this piece of vibranium, they would be able to reduce a lot of danger when dealing with Wolverine's adamantium claws. At least they didn't have to worry about Wolverine tearing them apart with his claws. Definitely, but this amount of vibranium is still not enough. At the same time, he needed to create some other devices to further deal with Wolverine, to ensure that Wolverine would obediently listen to him. Wolverine's temper wasn't good, it could even be described as very foul, like a stone in a pit. Shu Luo was a man of his word. "Next, I will help you create an iron arm. Additionally, I would like to borrow your tool shed to create a vibranium shield for myself." Upon hearing Shu Luo's words, Clow immediately breathed a sigh of relief. After all, Clow had personally witnessed Shu Luo's strength. Although his combat skills were somewhat immature, his physical fitness and reaction abilities far surpassed that of an ordinary person. He was like a Superman-like existence. On the surface, the other party had the advantage, so Clow wouldn't be surprised if Shu Luo suddenly changed his mind. However, when he saw Shu Luo putting a coat on his daughter, he understood that the other party was probably not a person who would go back on their word. The character of a person can be seen in the smallest details. He could sense that Shu Luo seemed to be someone worth getting to know. But until the very last moment, he still had his guard up. Upon hearing the other party's reply, he finally breathed a sigh of relief. A slight smile appeared on Clow's old face. "Feel free to use it, brother." Clow continued, "By the way, are you hungry? I'll get something to eat." Upon hearing this, Shu Luo suddenly felt a wave of hunger. He smiled bitterly, "I am indeed a little hungry." Seeing this, Clow burst into laughter. "Wait here, I'll give my daughter a massage and then get some food." After saying that, Clow turned and left. Shu Luo rubbed his hungry stomach. Hold on a little longer, I'll feed you soon. His gaze once again fell on the vibranium. Next, I will create a steel arm and then forge the vibranium into a shield. During this time, with the remaining time, I can focus on training my combat skills such as fighting, shooting, and throwing. After all, I haven't received any training in this area, and everything is too immature. It really needs some training. In these past few days of battle, Shu Luo deeply realized his shortcomings. In terms of shooting, he occasionally misses the target, even when shooting at the opponent's chest. In close combat, he has always relied on his physical advantage to overpower ordinary people. If he were to encounter a winter soldier with similar physical qualities, he would basically not be able to win. After all, the opponents are all seasoned warriors, and their close combat skills are basically top-notch. Throwing is for the convenience of using the shield in the future. After thinking it over, he found that Captain America's round shield is still the most effective, with a more comprehensive function that can both defend and attack. The round edges can bounce back better. No wonder Howard, Tony's father, designed the shield to be round. It must have been carefully considered. Shu Luo couldn't help but say, I never thought that I would become the second Captain America. Besides training, I also need to absorb the knowledge obtained from Hydra like crazy. The knowledge from my previous life is really too limited, far from enough. Next, he needs to transplant the self-healing factor from Wolverine into his own body. This requires a vast amount of knowledge in biotechnology. After all, the one who was able to perform this experiment was Stryker, the subordinate of Tesla, the father of Sentry. Tesla's help was involved in this, and Tesla is the top-level genius biologist who created the Sentinels. It is with the help of such a person that Deadpool was born. As for his previous life, he was just an ordinary researcher in a failed research institute, so his knowledge reserves can be imagined. So now he needs to charge crazily. In addition to the knowledge from Hydra, he can also browse more cutting-edge knowledge of bioengineering online. After absorbing a large amount of this knowledge, he can successfully understand and analyze the self-healing factor in Wolverine. Shu Luo put the vibranium aside and prepared to start working on the steel arm first. The steel arm is actually a machine device made up of a steel frame that can be worn by a person and connected to the nerves. This equipment can provide extra strength and limb movement for Clow, who has lost his arm. This set of equipment needs to be able to understand the user's every move and simulate every action he wants in a timely manner. Even a millisecond of hesitation can cause a burden and make the user feel as if they are walking in water, making it difficult. Therefore, the sensors of this mechanical suit must be able to read every subtle movement and perception applied to its body at a speed of thousands of times per second. Its microprocessor must be powerful enough to convert these data into instructions and transmit them to the mechanical limbs in a timely manner, so that they can be coordinated with the wearer's thoughts. Coincidentally, the Chitauri already have very mature technology in this area, which he can directly use. So now he is ready to create a set of powerful, extremely sensitive, and accurate sensors and microprocessors. Thinking of this, Shu Luo is ready to start. He looked at the tools, instruments, and materials around him and nodded approvingly. Clow, this guy, is quite meticulous. The equipment and materials for making things are very complete. This place is like a small arsenal. With these things, I can basically make what I want. Then, Shu Luo started working on making the sensors and microprocessors. After a while, there was a knock on the door. A little girl stood at the door, sniffing and said, "Big brother, it's time to eat." Shu Luo nodded and immediately put down what he was holding and went out to eat. As soon as he stepped out, a strong fragrance hit him. Looking at the dining table, there were beef stewed with potatoes, steak, and so on. Shu Luo sniffed. "I didn't expect your cooking skills to be so good." The little girl proudly said, "Of course, my dad's cooking skills are comparable to those of a Michelin chef." Hearing his daughter's praise, Clow laughed heartily. "It's still a bit worse than a Michelin chef." The little girl crossed her arms and hummed, "Dad, we can't be too modest." Clow laughed and hooked the little girl's nose, "But we can't be too proud either." Clow then said to Shu Luo, "This is my daughter, Elizabeth Clow." The little girl, with a big personality, reached out her small hand. "Hello, big brother. Nice to meet you." Shu Luo earnestly shook her hand. "Nice to meet you too, little Elizabeth. I'm Shu Luo." The little girl looked at Shu Luo curiously. "I noticed that you don't like to smile. Is it because you don't have a girlfriend?" Shu Luo's face darkened slightly. Clow, who was next to him, almost choked on his food. "Child, don't talk nonsense. Clow said impatiently. Eat, eat. Then they all started eating. Shu Luo took a bite of the beef, which was incredibly tender and flavorful. With each bite, the delicious meat juice burst in his mouth, truly delicious. Additionally, I would like to borrow your tool shed to create a vibranium shield for myself. Upon hearing Shu Luo's words, Clow immediately breathed a sigh of relief. After all, Clow had personally witnessed Shu Luo's strength. Although his combat skills were somewhat immature, his physical fitness and reaction abilities far surpassed that of an ordinary person. He was like a Superman-like existence. On the surface, the other party had the advantage, so Clow wouldn't be surprised if Shu Luo suddenly changed his mind. However, when he saw Shu Luo putting a coat on his daughter, he understood that the other party was probably not a person who would go back on their word. The character of a person can be seen in the smallest details. He could sense that Shu Luo seemed to be someone worth getting to know. But until the very last moment, he still had his guard up. Upon hearing the other party's reply, he finally breathed a sigh of relief. A slight smile appeared on Clow's old face. Feel free to use it, brother. Clow continued, by the way, are you hungry? I'll get something to eat. Upon hearing this, Shu Luo suddenly felt a wave of hunger. He smiled bitterly, I am indeed a little hungry. Seeing this, Clow burst into laughter. Wait here, I'll give my daughter a massage and then get some food. After saying that, Clow turned and left. Shu Luo rubbed his hungry stomach. Hold on a little longer, I'll feed you soon. His gaze once again fell on the vibranium. Next, I will create a steel arm and then forge the vibranium into a shield. During this time, with the remaining time, I can focus on training my combat skills such as fighting, shooting, and throwing. After all, I haven't received any training in this area, and everything is too immature. It really needs some training. In these past few days of battle, Shu Luo deeply realized his shortcomings. In terms of shooting, he occasionally misses the target, even when shooting at the opponent's chest. In close combat, he has always relied on his physical advantage to overpower ordinary people. If he were to encounter a winter soldier with similar physical qualities, he would basically not be able to win. After all, the opponents are all seasoned warriors, and their close combat skills are basically top-notch. Throwing is for the convenience of using the shield in the future. After thinking it over, he found that Captain America's round shield is still the most effective, with a more comprehensive function that can both defend and attack. The round edges can bounce back better. No wonder Howard, Tony's father, designed the shield to be round. It must have been carefully considered. Shu Luo couldn't help but say, I never thought that I would become the second Captain America. Besides training, I also need to absorb the knowledge obtained from Hydra like crazy. The knowledge from my previous life is really too limited, far from enough. Next, he needs to transplant the self-healing factor from Wolverine into his own body. This requires a vast amount of knowledge in biotechnology. After all, the one who was able to perform this experiment was Stryker, the subordinate of Tesla, the father of Sentry. Tesla's help was involved in this, and Tesla is the top-level genius biologist who created the Sentinels. It is with the help of such a person that Deadpool was born. As for his previous life, he was just an ordinary researcher in a failed research institute, so his knowledge reserves can be imagined. So now he needs to charge crazily. In addition to the knowledge from Hydra, he can also browse more cutting-edge knowledge of bioengineering online. After absorbing a large amount of this knowledge, he can successfully understand and analyze the self-healing factor in Wolverine. Shu Luo put the vibranium aside and prepared to start working on the steel arm first. The steel arm is actually a machine device made up of a steel frame that can be worn by a person and connected to the nerves. This equipment can provide extra strength and limb movement for Clow, who has lost his arm. This set of equipment needs to be able to understand the user's every move and simulate every action he wants in a timely manner. Even a millisecond of hesitation can cause a burden and make the user feel as if they are walking in water, making it difficult. Therefore, the sensors of this mechanical suit must be able to read every subtle movement and perception applied to its body at a speed of thousands of times per second. Its microprocessor must be powerful enough to convert these data into instructions and transmit them to the mechanical limbs in a timely manner, so that they can be coordinated with the wearer's thoughts. Coincidentally, the Chitauri already have very mature technology in this area, which he can directly use. So now he is ready to create a set of powerful, extremely sensitive, and accurate sensors and microprocessors. Thinking of this, Shu Luo is ready to start. He looked at the tools, instruments, and materials around him and nodded approvingly. Clow, this guy, is quite meticulous. The equipment and materials for making things are very complete. This place is like a small arsenal. With these things, I can basically make what I want. Then, Shu Luo started working on making the sensors and microprocessors. After a while, there was a knock on the door. A little girl stood at the door, sniffing and said, "Big brother, it's time to eat." Shu Luo nodded and immediately put down what he was holding and went out to eat. As soon as he stepped out, a strong fragrance hit him. Looking at the dining table, there were beef stewed with potatoes, steak, and so on. Shu Luo sniffed. "I didn't expect your cooking skills to be so good." The little girl proudly said, "Of course, my dad's cooking skills are comparable to those of a Michelin chef." Hearing his daughter's praise, Clow laughed heartily. "It's still a bit worse than a Michelin chef." The little girl crossed her arms and hummed, "Dad, we can't be too modest." Clow laughed and hooked the little girl's nose, "But we can't be too proud either." Clow then said to Shu Luo, "This is my daughter, Elizabeth Clow." The little girl, with a big personality, reached out her small hand. "Hello, big brother. Nice to meet you." Shu Luo earnestly shook her hand. "Nice to meet you too, little Elizabeth. I'm Shu Luo." The little girl looked at Shu Luo curiously. "I noticed that you don't like to smile. Is it because you don't have a girlfriend?" Shu Luo's face darkened slightly. Clow, who was next to him, almost choked on his food. "Child, don't talk nonsense," Clow said impatiently. "Eat, eat." Then they all started eating. Shu Luo took a bite of the beef, which was incredibly tender and flavorful. With each bite, the delicious meat juice burst in his mouth, truly delicious. Shu Luo felt that he could indeed rival the chef. Because of the strengthening of his body, his appetite had also increased. In addition, he hadn't eaten for nearly a day, and the food smelled delicious. So Shu Luo ate a lot. After finishing eating, Shu Luo continued to work. After working on the steel arm for a while, he put the hard drive into the computer and started learning how to handle vibranium. After all, vibranium is an extremely hard metal, and ordinary smelting methods are useless. It requires a terrifying temperature to melt and shape it. So he needed to specially create an alloy iron furnace for smelting vibranium. In addition, his shield will be made of pure vibranium, and its defensive power will be stronger than Captain America's shield. Captain America's shield is primarily made of vibranium, with the addition of original adamantium and some other metal components. In terms of penetrating power, Captain America's shield is stronger. After all, compared to vibranium, adamantium has a slight advantage in penetrating power. But in terms of absorbing kinetic energy, the shield he will create will be stronger, so its defensive power will also be stronger. For Shu Luo, the greatest significance of the shield is defense, while the attack will come later. In the following period of time, Shu Luo was manufacturing things and learning in the safe house, training in this mountain forest. Fortunately, Clow is also skilled in combat, so he is teaching Shu Luo close combat and shooting. Hydra has conducted a thorough search around Clow's house, even searching the mine several times, but they have not found any trace of Shu Luo and the others. It's as if Shu Luo and Clow have vanished into thin air. When Baron heard this news, he flew into a rage. He smashed the entire office to pieces. Baron said to his subordinates, "Keep searching. Expand the scope and keep searching." An assistant spoke up, "Baron, if we further expand the scope of the search, it will inevitably attract more attention. Is that a good idea?" The assistant realized that Baron didn't want more people to know about Shu Luo. So he ordered the cleansing of Research Facility 71. When Baron made an unwise decision due to his anger, he decided to give the other party a warning. After hearing the assistant's words, Baron pondered for a moment. "You're right, we can't expand the search in such a high-profile manner. Reduce the personnel, disguise yourselves, and continue the search. Once you find them, send a message immediately. In addition, pay attention to the internet as well. He may use his own information to go online or make purchases, although the chances are small, we can't overlook it." Yes. While Hydra was conducting a slow and thorough search, Shu Luo and the others had long since run away and hidden in a distant place. No matter how they searched around, they would never find Shu Luo and the others. Baron dismissed his subordinates and sat alone in the room. He murmured, "Shu Luo, where are you now?" He looked at the information of various superhumans on the computer. "I have a feeling that you are brewing something extraordinary." In his mind, scenes of Shu Luo fighting alone in the research facility appeared. The opponent's calm state and those cold, piercing eyes left a deep impression on Baron Strucker. At that time, he felt that this guy was definitely not ordinary. 2 weeks later, in the mountain forest. Clow raised his steel arm and moved his fingers. Beside him, Shu Luo stood still. Compared to when he first arrived, Shu Luo had changed a lot. He was clean all over, his injuries had healed, and he even picked up a neat and clean short haircut. He looked extremely healthy and sunny. But that face doesn't smile much. He spoke. How is it? Claude was extremely surprised, his face filled with joy. Oh my god, it's exactly the same as my own hand. Extremely flexible, just like a native arm brought out from the womb. Claude laughed heartily. It feels amazing. Elizabeth, who was beside him, was also happy. Daddy has an arm again. Elizabeth is so happy. She hugged Shu Luo. Thank you, big brother. Shu Luo rubbed Elizabeth's little head. Try using the strength and functions in your hand. Okay. Claude raised his fist and struck the big tree. Boom. A large hole was directly blasted into the tree. Seeing the power of the steel arm, Claude widened his eyes and took a slight breath. Wow. This fist is powerful enough to break through a wall if it hits a person. He immediately swung his arm. Boom. The big tree was directly broken in half. Boom boom. The tree fell down, leaning towards Elizabeth. Claude shouted anxiously, no, on the contrary, Elizabeth remained calm and quietly watched the falling tree. When the tree was about to reach above Elizabeth's head, it stopped falling. Shu Luo was seen holding up the tree with one hand, calm and composed. Shu Luo said, Little Yi, move away a bit. Elizabeth obediently nodded and moved away. Shu Luo threw the tree away. Boom. Claude quickly hugged Elizabeth. You. Why didn't you dodge? And you were so calm. Elizabeth confidently said, because Big Brother was here. He's so powerful, nothing can happen to Elizabeth. Claude laughed and cried. He looked at Shu Luo. This girl admires you more than her own dad. Then he excitedly raised his hand. But honestly, this thing is really strong. He raised his hand and a beam of light shot out, directly piercing through several trees. Ha ha ha. This move is indeed impressive. Brother, you're really amazing, being able to create such a powerful thing. You're the next Tony Stark. Elizabeth coldly snorted. What next Tony Stark? Big Brother will definitely surpass Stark and become the most amazing scientist in the future. Presently, Elizabeth is Shu Luo's brainless fan. Claude looked at his daughter's appearance and felt speechless. Isn't it said that daughters admire their fathers the most? Why is his little cotton jacket leaking? Claude asked, by the way, how is the progress on your shield? Is it almost complete? Shu Luo nodded, it will be completed tomorrow. Claude asked, so, are you leaving tomorrow? Shu Luo nodded, yes, I have completed what I needed, I should go. Next, he will go find Wolverine. A gleam flashed in Shu Luo's eyes. Crow nodded, okay. Immediately, he looked at the big tree next to him and couldn't help but sigh. Brother, to be honest, your physical strength is truly impressive. The flesh and blood body feels stronger than my steel arm. Shu Luo shook his head. Maybe the strength is similar, but the durability is far inferior to your alloy arm. No matter how powerful my body is, I would still bleed and get injured when facing knives, guns, and bullets. Crow laughed. You talk as if someone's body can be indestructible, impervious to bullets. He added, I'm talking about humans, not monsters like the Hulk. Shu Luo looked at the big tree. Indeed, there are people whose bodies can be indestructible. In New York, there's a man known as the Power Man, who has a steel-like body that ordinary bullets can't penetrate. The person Shu Luo was referring to is Luke Cage. This is also one of his future goals. Hearing this, Crow widened his eyes and exclaimed, the world is so vast, there are so many people with super abilities, it's truly amazing. Elizabeth, who was next to them, brightened her eyes, I also want to have super abilities. Crow smiled, darling, we don't need any super abilities, Dad will protect you. Elizabeth nodded and hugged her father, I have Dad, I'm not afraid of anyone. Crow patted his daughter's head and then looked at Shu Luo, are you still training today? Shu Luo nodded, yes, I have to train, immediately. Shu Luo began his shooting and throwing training. These days, Crow has been guiding him. Although Crow only has one hand, it doesn't affect his guidance at all. After all, he is an experienced warrior and a somewhat famous figure in the Marvel world. On the trees in the distance, there were targets drawn. Bang. 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 Shu Luo firmly held the gun in his hand, aimed at the target with his eyes, and the sound of gunshots kept ringing. Bullets flew out one by one, wood chips splattered from the targets on the trees, and deep craters formed. Only a few of them had slight deviations and didn't hit the bullseye. With the guidance of a master and his high comprehension, Shu Luo's shooting level has improved by leaps and bounds. Compared to 2 weeks ago, where he might have shot someone in the chest, now he could hit the head or even outside the body. Now, Shu Luo almost never missed a shot. To increase the difficulty, he would run or ride a motorcycle while shooting. The gun in his hand seemed to merge with his hand. No matter how the angle changed, the gun stuck tightly to Shu Luo's hand, aiming accurately at the target without any deviation or shaking. Because of the high-speed movement, the accuracy of the shooting decreased slightly, but he could still maintain a 75% bullseye hit rate, which was almost unattainable for normal people. After finishing shooting, Shu Luo took a resilient alloy shield and threw it. Bang, bang, bang. It hit the targets, bounced back continuously, and finally returned to Shu Luo's hand. He dodged and threw, continuously hitting the targets, and the shield kept returning to his hand, forming a perfect cycle. After finishing shooting and throwing, Shu Luo was slightly out of breath. Looking at his extremely high hit rate, Shu Luo felt a sense of joy. After 2 weeks of hard training, the results were very significant. Claude, who was standing next to him, couldn't help but exclaim, "To be honest, your progress is simply unbelievable. It's terrifying. I can't imagine that just 2 weeks ago, you were still inexperienced in handling a gun. Now, even the best sharpshooters who have trained in the military for over a decade or two can't compare to you." Elizabeth, who was beside them, clapped her hands and exclaimed happily, "Big brother, you're amazing." Shu Luo shook his head, "What I've achieved is nothing special." Claude was speechless. Yes, you have to hit the bullseye every time to be considered good, right? Shu Luo nodded. "If you don't hit the bullseye every time, it means there are still significant mistakes." Claude's mouth twitched. "There's really no point in communicating with someone like you, a freak. Alright, today I've put on my steel gloves, so my combat ability can be fully displayed. Let's train with each other." As he spoke, he raised his hands. Shu Luo nodded. "I will control my strength and speed to match yours." "Thank you for considering me," Claude said. Shu Luo shook his head. "I'm just doing it to better train my ability." Next, the two of them began their combat training. Bang, bang, bang. They fought back and forth, the battle intense. After a while, Shu Luo had Claude in a chokehold. Claude was defeated. Claude sighed, "You really are terrifying. You've become a master in just 2 weeks, surpassing even the best." Shu Luo released his grip on Claude's neck. "Actually, our close combat skills are about the same. It's just that I've figured out your fighting style, so I can quickly calculate your weaknesses and vulnerabilities in my mind." Claude forced a bitter smile. "To be honest, your progress is really discouraging. Are people with true abilities really this strong?" Claude said. "Alright, after training for so long, let's go back and have dinner." Upon hearing the mention of food, Elizabeth cheered. "Yay, it's time to eat." Immediately, she turned around and skipped back to the safe house. Watching his daughter's figure, Claude smiled indulgently. Shu Luo looked at Elizabeth's back and asked, "What illness does little Yi have?" Hearing this, Claude's face darkened. He said, "She has childhood asthma, combined with congenital heart disease. The former cannot be cured and will accompany her for life, preventing her from engaging in strenuous exercise. The latter, little Yi, has one of the most difficult types of congenital heart disease, which is incurable. That's why her body is so weak. I've sought out the top doctors worldwide, but it hasn't had any effect." Claude sighed at this point. Shu Luo didn't say much after hearing this. After finishing their meal, Shu Luo began the final process of making the vibranium shield. It was the last step in melting the vibranium using a small, high-powered arc furnace. Currently, Shu Luo has already completed the construction of the furnace bottom and furnace wall using alkaline refractory materials or acid refractory materials. The furnace cover, furnace door, ladle, and furnace body are also basically completed. A series of steel melting techniques, such as high-pressure long arc operation, water-cooled furnace wall, water-cooled furnace cover, foam slag technology, and the use of external heat sources for melting, have been fully incorporated. Only the graphite electrode remains. This is also an extremely important part. After all, in electric arc steelmaking, steel is produced by inputting electrical energy into the steelmaking furnace through graphite electrodes, and using the arc between the electrode tip and the charge as the heat source for steelmaking. Fortunately, Hydra has information and prototypes in this area. It is the same material that Howard used to make Captain America's shield and melt vibranium. As Shu Luo continues to work, sparks fly in the instrument. Soon, the graphite electrode is restored by Shu Luo. Finally, Shu Luo completes the formation of a special version of the vibranium-powered small high-power electric arc furnace. A waist-high small furnace is completed. Seeing the completion of the electric furnace that melts vibranium, a hint of joy flashes in Shu Luo's eyes. Finally, the most difficult part is completed. He plugs in the power and places the lump of vibranium next to it. Then he starts it up. Powerful electricity is injected into the furnace and into the graphite electrode. A fierce high-temperature arc bursts out and enters the vibranium. As time passes, the vibranium begins to glow red, then melt, and finally, under the action of the high-power electric furnace, it turns into orange-yellow high-temperature molten iron. Then, these high-temperature liquids are injected into the specially designed mold device next to it. Hiss. The sound of steam. Boom boom. The sound of hammering. After a while, the machine stops working. Creak. The machine opens. A silver, smooth metal shield appears. It is shining with a cold light and is extraordinary. The inner side is also embedded with special tough superfibers, mainly used to grip the shield. Shu Luo takes out the shield. Finally, it's done. His vibranium shield. Holding the shield in his hand, Shu Luo feels a sense of excitement and joy. He looks at the nearby blocks of steel. The shield strikes. The block of steel instantly splits in half. No wonder its vibranium, its hardness and penetration ability are indeed far superior to ordinary steel. Then, he hangs the shield on a plastic human model. Then he shoots at the shield. The human model doesn't move at all. This is because the powerful kinetic energy of the bullet has been greatly reduced by the shield. This is also the reason why Captain America can fall from a high building while holding the shield without suffering much damage. It's not because Captain America's body can withstand the terrifying impact of falling from a high building, but because of the vibranium shield's terrifying energy absorption ability. After all, Shu Luo now has the same physique as Captain America. If you let him jump from the 10th floor without any equipment, he would still die. He picks up the shield again and says, "Now, the defense is also somewhat guaranteed. Next, it's time to finish making the final props." He looked to the side. The small electromagnetic pulse weapons that had already been made. 3 electromagnetic pulse grenades and 1 electromagnetic pulse gun. In addition, there were 3 sets of strong magnetic handcuffs. These were the powerful handcuffs that Hydra used to restrain Captain America in the elevator. A set of 2 magnetic handcuffs, when combined, were the strongest. To prevent Hydra from restraining Captain America, one of them was kicked away, so only one was restrained, greatly reducing the effectiveness of the handcuffs. And a neurotoxin button, when attached to the body, released a toxin that temporarily paralyzed the whole body. All of these were products of Hydra's technology. Actually, Shu Luo also really wanted to create the paralysis weapon used by the bald antagonist in Iron Man. That one used ultrasonic waves to interfere with the human nervous system, making it difficult for people to move. It can be said that it is very useful, and it can attack a group of people. But Hydra doesn't have that technology. And he currently doesn't know much about this area, so he can't make it for now. But for the neurotoxin button, he only needed to do a little finishing work. Conducting neurotoxin tests, he put the neurotoxin into a testing dish. Soon, the computer began to analyze rapidly, and the data turned green one by one, indicating that they met the conditions. Until the last piece of data turned green. The computer made a beep sound. Then it displayed, "Neurotoxin meets the standard." Seeing this, Shu Luo clenched his fist. Perfect, the last weapon is also completed. He injected the neurotoxin into the button weapon. The basic preparations are done. Sleep tonight, and we'll set off tomorrow. Shu Luo exhaled and packed up his things. Then he packed up his things and walked out of the tool room. He saw Klaus sitting in the living room, flipping through a storybook, and Elizabeth was sleeping on his lap. She was sleeping soundly, with a hint of sparkling saliva at the corner of her mouth. Klaus gently carried Elizabeth back to her bedroom, then closed the door softly. Klaus asked, "Is it done?" Shu Luo nodded, "It's done." Then, Shu Luo asked, "By the way, do you know the whereabouts of Wolverine, James Logan?" After 2 weeks, Shu Luo didn't know if Wolverine was still in his original location. He also didn't know if Wolverine had been wandering around. After all, this guy had a habit of wandering around. Klaus smiled bitterly. "I have basically lost contact with the outside world now. After all, we are still being hunted by Hydra." If we make contact with the outside, it's very easy for Hydra to detect us. I plan to wait a while longer, wait for the situation to calm down before going out. Hearing Klau's words, Shu Luo felt a little disappointed. It seemed that he could only go and check Wolverine's address from 2 weeks ago. Klau said solemnly, "Stay safe, brother. Although I don't know what you have been through, I can tell that you are definitely an extraordinary person. Although you are currently being hunted by Hydra, this huge organization, I believe you can protect yourself. If you need anything, you can tell me. Even if it's an investment in you, based on my belief in you." In the past 2 weeks of contact, Klaus sincerely felt that the man in front of him, who was not good at smiling, was someone worth befriending. Especially since his own daughter also liked the other person, and the other person treated his daughter well, which made him feel even closer. Shu Luo shook his head. "I've already taken the things, used quite a bit of your materials, there's nothing else I need." He thought of Klau's fate, being directly killed by Eric, the cousin of Black Panther, also known as the Black Panther. So he reminded, if possible, don't do anything related to vibranium anymore. After all, vibranium is too dangerous, too easy to cause bloodshed. If something happens to you, Elizabeth won't have anyone to rely on. And besides, you're not lacking money now. Shu Luo didn't directly mention Klau's fate, after all, predicting the future is not easy to explain. And some things, being able to give a reminder is already a great kindness. Hearing Shu Luo's words, Klau fell silent for a moment and touched his slightly graying temple. He immediately said, "I understand, I will pay attention in the future." Seeing this, Shu Luo didn't say anything more. "I'm going to sleep, leaving early tomorrow morning." "Okay." Klau grinned. "Good night." The next day, Shu Luo got up, had breakfast, and packed his things, ready to leave. At the entrance of the cave, Shu Luo rode a motorcycle. This motorcycle was a gift from Klau to Shu Luo. After all, it was a bit far from here to where Wolverine was. Klau wrapped a stack of money in paper and handed it to Shu Luo. "Brother, take it, you'll need money when you go out. You can't use your previous card anymore, otherwise Hydra will catch you. I see that you don't have much money on you, so take this." Shu Luo didn't refuse either. He took the money and put it in his backpack. "Thank you. If you have any difficulties in the future, you can come find me." Then he gave Klau a private email address. Elizabeth felt a bit reluctant. "Big brother, are you leaving? Can't you stay a little longer with Elizabeth?" Shu Luo touched the little girl's head. "I have things to do, I'll come play with you another time." After hearing that, Elizabeth's eyes brightened, and she extended her little pinky finger. "Promise?" Shu Luo also hooked his pinky finger with hers. "Promise." Elizabeth hugged Shu Luo's neck again. "Elizabeth will miss you, big brother." After Elizabeth finished hugging Shu Luo started the motorcycle. Vroom. The motorcycle roared and sped through the mountains and forests. There were traces of him on the trees around. Bullet marks and deep marks from shields were everywhere. These were the traces he left behind in the past 2 weeks. As the motorcycle raced on, the traces around became fewer and eventually disappeared completely. He left a familiar place. One day later, a motorcycle was speeding on the road. A man wearing a black helmet was on the bike, with a backpack on his back and a silver shield hanging on the backpack. This person was Shu Luo. He was heading towards the address in his memory. Looking at the fuel gauge on the motorcycle dashboard, it was about to run out. "So fast, the fuel is running out. This gasoline is simply not enough. If this car had an arc reactor as its energy source, it would be great. In that case, I wouldn't have to refuel so frequently. It's too troublesome." He immediately headed towards the nearest gas station based on the map in his mind. Because he found mobile maps to be troublesome and inconvenient, Shu Luo chose to memorize the entire map of the United States in his mind. However, he only remembered most of the routes and some important locations, such as gas stations, motels, and restaurants along the road. He didn't bother memorizing detailed rural roads, village roads, and city routes, as they were too complex and would require a considerable amount of time even with his good memory. The routes in his mind were already sufficient for his use. It was like having the entire national map stored in his head. He just didn't have the more detailed local maps for now. Soon, Shu Luo arrived at the nearest gas station. After filling up the gas, he went to the open-air restaurant across the street to replenish his energy. Shu Luo just ordered a few plates of beef. He took off his helmet and started eating. Not far behind him, a person was typing rapidly on a keyboard, and the computer screen blocked the person's face. Behind the computer was a woman with sunglasses and a good figure, busy sending messages. Nana. I have obtained the recent information about Hydra's transactions in the south. I will bring it back soon. Fu. Very good, you can return now. Nana. Also, it seems like Hydra is looking for someone recently. They have mobilized quite a few people. It looks very suspicious. Fu. Have you found out who they are looking for? Nana. Not yet, but give me some more time, and I should be able to investigate. Fu. Okay, after you bring back the information, continue investigating this matter. Nana. All right. Just at that moment, several cars rushed over. Immediately, a group of men in black jumped out of the cars and rushed towards the woman with sunglasses. These people had steel exoskeletons on their arms. Capture her. Don't let her escape. We must retrieve the data from her. The woman saw the group of people approaching and quickly closed the computer, stuffing it into her backpack. She was about to leave. The opponents had already reached her and threw punches. The woman quickly dodged, and the punches directly smashed through the thick table, sending wood chips flying. The woman took a deep breath and said, "Damn, it's getting tricky. They all have steel arm exoskeletons." Bang. 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 Both sides engaged in intense combat. Tables and chairs were overturned and smashed. The scene was chaotic. The people eating around quickly got up and ran away without paying. The owner of the restaurant looked at the terrifying steel arm of the opponents and didn't dare to intervene. Shu Luo paid no attention to the fight behind him and calmly finished the beef in his plate, replenishing his energy. He left the money and got up to leave. Shu Luo did not step forward to help. After all, it had nothing to do with him, and he was currently being pursued by Hydra, so he needed to keep a low profile. Shu Luo turned his head and put on his hood, preparing to leave. When he saw the woman in the fight, he was slightly taken aback. He didn't expect to encounter someone familiar here. That woman in the fight was none other than SHIELD agent Black Widow, Natasha Romanoff. Natasha Romanoff kept evading and retreating. She gritted her teeth and thought, damn, this is big trouble. These people with exoskeleton arms have strength and speed far beyond ordinary people. I have their information, and they will definitely fight me to the end. Natasha Romanoff felt a tingling sensation on her scalp. She never expected that the other side would send a group of guys wearing exoskeleton arms. On Shu Luo's side, he just glanced at them and didn't pay any attention. After all, it had nothing to do with him. He was about to leave, but his gaze collided with the people fighting next to him. When those fighting people saw Shu Luo with his hood on, they were slightly stunned. Then they exchanged glances. Is it him? It's him. Change target. Change. Attack him. Capture him. We can't let him escape. With a rush of noise, the Hydra members who had been surrounding Black Widow swarmed towards Shu Luo. They completely abandoned their original target. They gave up the information that was still in Black Widow's hands. Natasha Romanoff, who had been prepared to fight and instinctively retaliate, felt the surroundings suddenly empty, and her fist hit nothing. She looked at the Hydra members rushing towards Shu Luo, looked at her empty surroundings, her eyes froze, feeling a bit confused. What's going on? Why did they all run away? They don't want the stolen information anymore? She had the trading information from Hydra's southern region, which was extremely important as it related to some of Hydra's trading locations. These guys had come after her for this information. But now, just halfway through the fight, they all ran away when they saw another person, leaving her behind. This was a situation she had never encountered before in her missions. It completely caught her off guard. Her CPU felt like it was about to overheat. She looked at that person, an Asian man with a hood. Handsome appearance, tall and stylish, but she was completely unfamiliar with him, didn't recognize him at all. Who was this guy? Why would Hydra give up the important information on me for him without any hesitation? Does this guy have much greater value than the information on me? Natasha Romanoff furrowed her brows tightly, looking at the Asian man across from her. She couldn't understand why this person had such astonishing value to Hydra that they would directly abandon the information on her. But she understood that since Hydra wanted to get their hands on him so badly, she couldn't let Hydra have him. Facing so many Hydra members, and with exoskeleton arms, this guy definitely can't handle it. I have to save him. Just as Natasha Romanoff was about to make a move, the person opposite her made a move. He threw a hand grenade a few meters ahead. Grenade. Take cover. F*K. Watch out for the grenade. You madman. Throwing a grenade so close. Do you want to die together? Hydra members were terrified when they saw the other person throwing a grenade so close. At this point, Natasha Romanoff widened her eyes. Throwing a grenade so close, it's practically seeking death. Just as Natasha Romanoff was preparing to find cover to hide. Buzz. The expected explosion did not occur. Instead, there was a buzzing sound. Immediately, an invisible wave of energy surged out. In an instant, the Hydra members who were preparing to find a place to hide were frozen, their exoskeleton arms stiffened, rendering their hands unable to move. Then, that man made a move. Quickly, he pulled out a fully automatic pistol from his waist. And rapidly fired off a few shots. Bang, bang, bang. In the blink of an eye, the Asian man had completed his shooting. His movements were so fast that others could hardly see. Onlookers nearby took a slight breath when they saw this scene. Wow, this speed is too fast. The speed of drawing the gun and shooting. I thought I was watching a Western cowboy movie. No. The protagonist in Western cowboy movies isn't as fast as him. Bang, bang, bang. All the men in black fell down. There was a bullet hole between the eyebrows of each man in black. Black Widow saw this and her pupils contracted. This marksmanship was truly exquisite and accurate. Even she, an experienced agent, felt inferior. Perhaps only Hawkeye had this level of skill. And the speed of the other person was clearly superhuman. Who is this guy? His abilities are so strong, but why have I never heard of him? Shu Luo saw this and breathed a sigh of relief. He didn't expect to encounter Hydra people here. When this group of people saw him, their eyes lit up, and they even gave up their mission to capture Black Widow, along with their mechanical exoskeletons. So he instantly recognized them. They were Hydra people. But fortunately, he quickly dealt with them, without giving them a chance to send a message. He didn't want to be chased by Hydra again. After all, if he was blocked by a few Winter Soldiers, things would get out of hand. Seeing the gazes of the people around him, he understood that it was not suitable to stay here for long. Shu Luo picked up his helmet, rushed towards the gas station on the opposite side, and got on the motorcycle parked by the roadside. Buzz. The motorcycle roared and kicked up a layer of dust, quickly disappearing from the road and entering the wilderness. Hey! Natasha Romanoff wanted to call out to him. But the other person's movements were too fast. The motorcycle vanished in an instant. Looking at the figure in the distance, Natasha Romanoff frowned. Who is this guy? Why does Hydra value him so much? She took out her phone, wanting to make a call to S.H.I.E.L.D., but found that her phone was broken. So, that grenade was an electromagnetic pulse weapon. Extraordinary physique, extremely powerful shooting ability, and advanced electromagnetic pulse weapons. What exactly is this guy? She took a deep breath, shook her head. I'll report this to the higher-ups first, and then investigate him. I believe we'll have results soon. Then she walked to the other side of the block, straddled the motorcycle, and disappeared in an instant. Not long after. In an office. Natasha Romanoff handed the information in her hand to the bald Nick Fury. Nick Fury flipped through the information and nodded. You did well. Natasha Romanoff furrowed her brows slightly. When I came back, I encountered something strange. Nick Fury looked up and saw Natasha Romanoff frowning, knowing that something was not simple. He asked, "What's strange?" Natasha Romanoff soon encountered the incident involving the Asian man and recounted it. She chuckled self-deprecatingly, saying, "At that time, I thought I could save him, but it turned out that he could easily handle enemies that I found difficult to deal with." Upon hearing Natasha Romanoff's words, Black Egg's eyebrows furrowed. "You gave up the information in your hands for that man? And without hesitation?" he asked. Natasha Romanoff nodded. Upon hearing this, Black Egg's brows furrowed even tighter. The information in your hands is crucial to their transactions. Once these transaction points are exposed, it will be a significant blow to Hydra. Especially since Hydra has already been heavily damaged by the Avengers Alliance. If they suffer another blow, Hydra's situation will become even more infuriating. Yet, Hydra didn't hesitate to abandon this information and went straight for the person they encountered. In other words, in Hydra's eyes, this guy's value is even more important than that information. Who possesses such great value? And he's a handsome Asian man with formidable strength, even possessing exceptional shooting abilities and a physique similar to Superman. So, is this guy a specially trained warrior? A secret warrior of Hydra? Or is he a secret warrior of some other organization? Who is he? Black Egg crossed his hands and fell into deep thought, rapidly considering people who fit the criteria. However, after thinking for a while, he still couldn't come up with a corresponding person. He looked up at Natasha Romanoff and asked, "You really don't recognize him at all?" Natasha Romanoff nodded. "I don't recognize him at all. He's completely unfamiliar to me. If I had seen him before, I would definitely have some impression." "Definitely. We can't rule out the possibility of him using disguises," she replied. Black Egg said, "Draw his face first, and I'll check it." Natasha Romanoff immediately took out a piece of paper and a pencil from Black Egg's desk and began sketching rapidly. Being a highly trained agent with multiple skills, Natasha Romanoff's sketching ability was very strong. She could easily replicate someone's appearance one-to-one. The pencil swiftly moved across the white paper. Before long, a brand new portrait was completed. Shu Luo's face appeared on the portrait. Looking at the portrait, Black Egg also felt a sense of unfamiliarity. He didn't recognize him at all. Black Egg frowned and said, "I haven't seen this person either. Let me scan it and see if there's any information about him in the database." Immediately, Black Egg took a scanner and recorded the portrait. On the computer, the plain portrait appeared, and S.H.I.E.L.D's system began scanning it rapidly. Lines of white light appeared on the portrait, undergoing calculations and processing. At the same time, numerous headshots appeared on the side, swiftly passing by and being quickly filtered. Soon, a photo emerged. It was extremely similar to the sketched portrait, almost identical, except for some slight differences in angles. Seeing the real photo, both Black Egg and Natasha Romanoff widened their eyes. "Damn, our database actually has this person," Black Egg exclaimed in disbelief. Natasha Romanoff quickly read the information. Shu Luo graduated from the University of Pennsylvania with a bachelor's degree in bioengineering. The first half of his life was quite ordinary, studying, getting into university, and graduating. Note: the translation provided is a literal translation and may not capture the full nuances of the original text. But 2 years ago, through the recruitment of Hydra's shell company, I became an ordinary researcher under the Hydra organization, engaged in some peripheral research. Evaluation: a relatively mediocre professional in the field of biology, lacking physical strength. This guy is a member of Hydra. Upon seeing the other party's profile, Natasha Romanoff and Black Salted Egg both widened their eyes slightly. Natasha Romanoff couldn't believe it and said, "An ordinary technician? How is that possible? Shouldn't this guy be a trained warrior for 7 or 8 years? With his skilled movements, superb shooting ability, and lightning-fast combat reflexes, can an ordinary technician achieve this?" Black Salted Egg's mouth twitched and said, "This Shu Luo, are you sure he's the Asian man you mentioned?" Natasha Romanoff nodded and said, "The appearance is definitely right, it's him." Black Salted Egg immediately started typing on the keyboard. Retrieved Shu Luo's personal information. He is just a very ordinary person, with slightly better academic performance, but nothing particularly outstanding. His professional level is also not at a genius level. Natasha Romanoff said, "It seems that there really is such a person, and apart from his face, he seems extremely mediocre in other aspects. But how did he go from an ordinary person to a powerful warrior in just 2 years? Could he have passed Hydra's Winter Soldier program?" Black Salted Egg shook his head and said, "Even as a Winter Soldier, he cannot have a value surpassing the information you handed over." Black Salted Egg frowned and said, "Even if there were 5 Winter Soldiers, they still wouldn't compare to that information. What exactly does this guy have that makes Hydra give up their southern trading point?" Natasha Romanoff narrowed her eyes and said, "It seems that Hydra's unusual behavior during this period, searching for people, is all for finding him. Shu Luo. What secrets does he have? He was clearly an extremely ordinary person in all aspects before, so why would Hydra go to such lengths for him?" After Natasha Romanoff said this, both of them fell silent. To them, Shu Luo was now like a mystery, after a long time. Nick Fury spoke, "But no matter what, since Hydra is so eager to find him and capture him, we absolutely cannot let him be captured by Hydra. We must do our best to ensure that he is not captured by Hydra. We also need to figure out the secret on him that Hydra values so much." Natasha Romanoff nodded and said, "I understand. I will access the surveillance of the surrounding counties and see if I can find any trace of him." 1 day later. In the evening. In a desolate area. A motorcycle was speeding along the road. The roar was deep and powerful. Soon, the motorcycle began to slow down, crossing through an iron fence and entering an abandoned factory area. It stopped not far from a dilapidated factory building. Shu Luo looked at the factory building in front of him and murmured, "Finally, I've arrived at the place where Wolverine has been staying recently."